Hello, everybody. And we're all here. That's great. I would like to welcome the public, my fellow council members, the media, and anyone who is joining us in person and electronically for the Committee of the Whole meeting today. I'm Sam Branderhorst, Athol Ward Councillor, and I'm going to be your chair. Today's agenda lists all the items before committee for consideration. The recommended motions on today's agenda are shown in boldface. It is important to note that any motion made at this meeting is not final until the council meeting of November 10th, 2025, at which time the council may approve, amend, defer, or otherwise change the motion made by this committee. Copies of the agenda have been posted on our website. The meeting is being live streamed, and any participation in the meeting proceedings will become part of the public record. The recording from the meeting will be live streamed on the county's website and can be viewed by selecting live stream meetings on the bottom right of the county's homepage at thecounty.ca. Under agenda item 5, I will be asking for comments from the audience on any item listed on the agenda. Today we have one registered comment from the audience. If anyone else present would like to speak at this section of the agenda present at this meeting, you are welcome to do so. You will have 3 minutes. A reminder that if you participate, your name will be included in the committee minutes and form part of the public record and posted to the county's website. I want to remind everyone that we may differ in opinions, but it is important to remain respectful of each other. Thank you. For those in attendance, please refrain from clapping in the council chambers, as it does not add to the discussion and is in contravention of the procedural bylaw. If you cannot play a sport, be a sport. In the event of a fire, please use the applicable 2 fire exits in Shire Hall or wherever you are tuning in from. For those in Shire Hall council chambers, please mute and limit use of the cell phones. Now, can I please get a motion to confirm the agenda? Councillor Roberts, Councillor Princeton.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a Roberts-Princeton motion that the agenda for the Committee of the Whole meeting of October 23, 2025 be confirmed.
Thank you. All in favor? That carries. Moving on to disclosure of pecuniary interest and the general nature thereof. I'm seeing none. At this point, I would like to just allow Councillor Maynard to do a brief announcement.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would just like to take a moment to acknowledge the passing of longtime councillor in Quinte West, Sally Freeman. I knew Sally, and she was a dedicated councillor for many years, a fierce defender of her ideals, but also had a great sense of humor and was really fun to be around. My condolences go to her family and to the members of all the members of Quinte West Council. She will definitely be missed.
That is great. Thank you so much for that. We're going to move on to deputations. Duarte Silva, Chief Executive Officer of Prince Edward County Chamber of Commerce, is going to address committee regarding the update to council on the update to council. Thank you so much. Just a brief reminder, not that you probably need it, but you got 10 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Mayor Ferguson, members of council and staff. Thank you for this opportunity to speak. My name is Duarte Silva, CEO of the Prince Edward County Chamber of Commerce. Happy Bay of Quinte Small Business Week and Local Government Week to all those who celebrate. I wanted to extend a special thank you to Councillor Sam Brandenhorst and Emily Cowan, who joined me on Monday at the kickoff for Small Business Week at Loyalist College. You'll be hearing more in Karen Palmer's annual economic snapshot, but I wanted to start by addressing and talking about how county businesses continue to be squeezed and impacted by uncertainty, disruptions, and rising costs. We are, of course, all deeply aware of losing Highline Mushrooms, the recent shuttering of Starbucks, Scotiabank's announcement of the closing of their Wellington branch, and the continued Loyalist job and program cuts. Nationally, small businesses have also been impacted by the Canada Post labor dispute and continued tariff costs. These all have a profound impact on the workforce and businesses of Prince Edward County, as you will hear. The high-level outlook is that in Q2, Canada's GDP shrank at the sharpest pace since the pandemic, while growth, momentum, and business confidence are looking flat. The cost of doing business remains the top barrier, while weak demand has been the second concern for 4 consecutive quarters now. In labor, job postings are down, private sector job creation has stalled, and youth unemployment remains above pre-pandemic levels. Tariffs in trade sectors like steel, lumber, and automobile manufacturing are being hammered, but small firms are driving gains in cross-border activity, and more businesses are actively working to mitigate risks tied to the Canada-US trade. The takeaway is this: resilience is there, but it's not enough. We need stability and a renewed focus on growth, competitiveness, and collaboration to be successful. I wanted to also provide a brief update on the service agreement with the county, which we received 6 months ago in April, just prior to the start of the high season. Since then, we've kicked off a slate of initiatives that directly align with our shared responsibilities and priorities. For example, we know that transportation can be a barrier to work, so we've developed a transit awareness campaign aimed at businesses and employees in conjunction with the municipality's transit coordinator, Vincent Detournay, while also promoting other transportation options like ride sharing and taxis. You'll be hearing more about vehicle for hire shortly. Around accessibility, we visited businesses door to door, encouraging low or no cost accessibility upgrades, and have listed over 54 businesses on the Access Now platform. We're also working on a microgrant program for accessibility improvements that includes training to help up to 20 businesses become more accessible. We'll be organizing workshops on municipal services and regulations so businesses can navigate local requirements more easily that were previously delayed due to some key staffing changes in the departments, where this partnership potential for workshops. We'll be launching a refreshed Buy Local campaign during the shoulder season to spotlight county businesses while supporting local media in all its forms. You might have seen some ads on the big screen already if you've been to the Regent Theatre and on our social challenge channels, tying them into screenings at the Regent. We're also very excited about piloting our first PEC Connect trade show to connect county entrepreneurs and businesses. It's the first of its kind of our community, and we've been getting a lot of good feedback from our business community as we do interviews and focus groups from the Business Retention and Expansion Survey. It's certainly changed and expanded our thinking around it and what it could be. PEC Connect will be a great way to build connections between businesses and help boost local procurement. Stay tuned for more details on that. What I've learned from the service agreement so far is that we can't continue with business as usual and be siloed in our thinking. For example, the BR&E is pointing to a gap in learning and professional development. We need to go beyond networking. Businesses are telling us that they want our help to keep up with trends, to demystify new tools and technologies, and to support them in figuring out how to incorporate them into their processes and operations. Importantly, every one of these initiatives is open to all county businesses, large or small, chamber member or not, so that the whole community benefits. Altogether, these steps amplify the county's investment, and we're only just getting started. I'll be back in April to provide a full year report on our results. Supporting our youth is another priority woven into our strategy. We have heard repeatedly that our young people are not an economic challenge. They are the Prince Edward County's future. Youth initiatives, along with mentorship programs and school co-ops, are essential to building the workforce of tomorrow. This year, we are pleased to have Carrie Sprinkles, a Loyalist College business student, join us as her co-op placement. Carrie has since graduated Loyalist and is employed full-time in the county. Through the Canada Summer Jobs Program, PECI graduate and Wilfrid Laurier University student Ethan Eskins spent his summer with us getting real-world job experience. And as the Chamber is proudly an Ontario Living Wage certified employer, Carrie and Ethan were both paid a living wage. I've spoken before about our decision to be highly visible in our community and the importance of having an accessible storefront location in the Armory on Picton Main Street. We do this because we want to be a hub, a central location for our chamber members, businesses, and residents to ask questions or get information about doing business in PEC. We also believe it is important for businesses and residents to connect with their representatives at all levels of government. That's why I'm pleased to say that MP for the Bay of Quinte, Chris Millette, chose the Chamber office as their PEC satellite location. Every second and fourth Friday, members of his staff are there to provide services to the residents of PEC without having to travel to Belleville. This year, the Chamber, along with key community and economic development organizations, some of them here, in Prince Edward County formed the Four Season Economy Partnership to work collaboratively to increase off-season vibrancy and build long-term economic resilience. Prince Edward County urgently needs a four-season visitor economy strategy to address persistent vulnerabilities and build resilience across sectors. The Economic Development Action Plan identified the county's reliance on seasonal tourism and hospitality as a key challenge, noting that while business and job numbers are rising, the economy remains fragile and uneven. A four-season strategy would help stabilize employment, reduce unpredictability in income, attract and retain youth, and support local businesses to operate year-round. It would also align with the county's vision of building community wealth through diversification, sustainability, and inclusive growth. Illustrating the issue of seasonal employment in Prince Edward County, though, is difficult given the aggregate nature of data. However, we know from census data from 2020, 14.3% of respondents did not work a full year, citing seasonal work as a reason. 5.9% cited unable to find work that lasted a year as a reason. Another 11% citing business conditions. That's 31.4%, nearly a third of respondents. And that's well above the 21.6 citing reasons during COVID. Our membership is made up of a majority of businesses in hospitality and tourism industry and one of our largest employers. They deserve to see local economic development support their sector in reducing the precariousness of employment and build up the conditions for success. That's why the PEC Chamber of Commerce recently submitted a request for $100,000 from the Rural Ontario Development Fund in matching provincial funding, in partnership with County Arts, Picton BIA, the municipality, and Visit the County to strengthen our local economy and reduce reliance on seasonal tourism. I cannot stress enough just how unprecedented it is for these five organizations to see a common purpose and to recognize that we can achieve more together than alone. We need a roadmap to get to our destination. We need to understand where we're going, the best way to get there, how to measure our progress, and to align on who is doing what. The funding that municipality staff have put in the proposal will more than double and will allow us to develop a robust plan that guides sector development well into the future. The Chamber is committed to supporting the county's economic vision. The data shows why your help matters. Inflation is still squeezing local costs, labor and housing shortages constrain growth, and seasonal swings threaten the very jobs and tax base we need. Yet despite these challenges, our business community is resilient and innovative. We see entrepreneurs finding new markets, embracing technology like AI, and adapting every day. We respectfully ask you to continue and deepen that support. Extending the service agreement into 2026 would allow us to build on this momentum and plan strategically for the long term, and it's the best way to meet our mutual goals. As many of you know, being small entrepreneurs and businesses yourselves, taking that risk and running a business is very hard work. We think that hard work deserves some recognition, which is why on February 5th, 2026, we are pleased to once again host the 2025 Business Excellence Awards to shine a bright light on PEC businesses. We've already received dozens and dozens of worthy nominations, which are open until October 31st. Thank you again for your partnership and mostly for listening. Together, the Chamber and the county can ensure that the Prince Edward County's business community and the families and workers it supports will thrive year-round. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that deputation. I'm going to start looking to council members. I have Councillor Nyman first, and then Councillor Brainy.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for this. And you raised some good points. A lot of it is seasonal work and whatnot. And so I'm quite sure you know that I'm on the kick of bringing industry in.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess my question is, and I know the chamber helps the businesses that are here, and I understand that we need those to survive too. But what can the chamber do to help the county attract businesses here? And the reason I ask that is a couple reasons. Is one is we want full-time jobs.
Mm-hmm.
Two, we need to keep our residents here, the young ones also, as well as the old. But the other part is the money's going to go where the industry is, the money from the upper levels of government. So if you don't have anything that is going to, that shows that, you know, you have housing or you have, you know, wineries or whatever, but it's seasonal, they're not really interested in giving you the money for the infrastructure. So it's imperative that we try to attract some kind of business so that we can access some of that funding from the upper levels. So what can the chamber do to work with the county to help get us on that path?
I think a lot. Working with especially Care and Palmer Economic Development, we often have people walking in and saying, I'm looking to open a business here. I'm looking to start a business. I'm looking for some property. You know, I know someone who's looking to move their blacksmithing business here, not from an art perspective, but from an actual trades perspective to be able to move here. And the first place they came was to the chamber. So I think by working on the First Season Economy partnership and getting the data, getting the information that we need to align ourselves with exactly those things that we need to attract businesses and businesses that will work 4 seasons. I also think about if we had a 4-season economy, that's going to attract someone who may be a supplier, who may be a provider of goods to the rest of the tourism and hospitality industry. But we have to be able to get that data and talk to each other to find out what we need to put in place to better attract those businesses. I'm 100% in about attracting a diverse group of businesses to the county.
That's good to hear. Now, the other, I guess, point I'm trying to push, I guess, maybe a little bit is trying to attract a motel
Yes.
here that, you know, will allow the county and other businesses to have conferences here, bring people in, that we got the rooms and everything like that. So I don't know if you have a comment on that or.
Oh, I absolutely do. I often have comments on it. We held the ULI conference here, which is Urban Land Institute, and they came to the county for the first time in the rural municipality. They're around the world, but they usually stick to their urban centers. They were incredibly impressed about our vibrant main streets here. But of course, one of the challenges is housing enough people, visitors, to come to have a conference and to be able to workshop together and have leadership sessions together. I recently came from the Canadian Chamber of Commerce AGM and convention, and they have said they would love to bring it to the county, but the challenge is where do we put 100 to 300 people in that area. So we know we're missing out on opportunities. I look at Redtail, which is building the exact same purpose, where there's going to be initially 72 units, a 200-person hall, and a 60-person restaurant. That's the kind of thing we need to attract larger businesses, to do conventions here, to have training sessions here, to have leadership retreats here as well.
Thank you, Councillor Brainy.
Thank you. I know Councillor Nyman's dreams to have that big convention center, so the Leafs will come here for their fall training camp in Wellington. But
we can make that happen.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I wanted to say that, first of all, thank you, Duarte. I mean, being on the board, we see all the hard work and effort you're putting into all these initiatives. But I think historically, I think everybody understands and realizes the Chamber of Commerce historically in this community has been had a vital impact. And especially now with how things are going and things are turning even more vital. I'm glad that you asked your questions, Brad, because I think a lot of these initiatives and we are collaborating really well with, there seems to be a real sense and purpose of collaboration just because of everything going on with our own community services, economic development department with Emily, Karen. I see Sarah here, the Picton Mark from the BIA. We're going to get more as a team, and I think that's definitely happening. But I just want to say that we're taking steps, strategic steps, and I think the 4 season is a start. And I'm starting to see that we're starting to lay a lot of seeds and starting to see a lot of good outcome from them. So thank you, and I look forward to some of the other reports that we'll hear and sort of see some of the metrics attached to some of the initiatives that were taking place. But thanks, Duarte. I see you. I see you engaged in the community. I see you everywhere, and it's a pleasure serving on the board.
Thank you for that. I mean, the Chamber's been around for 120 years, and we're not going anywhere. And I think we're small groups dealing with large problems. The 3 of us have a very small staff, if any staff at all. And I think working together and coming together to solve these big problems and these issues is the way to success for all of us.
Councillor Pennell?
Yeah, thanks for what you're doing. And as we look ahead to the county in particular, I know we got to push on for houses, and the thought is still there. People are going to have to pay mortgages. They got to have work. And to the fact that houses to start out with in Prince Edward County are 100,000 plus more than any surrounding area, which probably means 2 people have got to work in the family to pay mortgages. As you move ahead, it's sort of like what come first, the chicken or the hen. If we have no jobs, people are not inclined to look here. If we do have jobs, surrounding people will be after them. And what's the equal situation that we move ahead, that Prince Edward County can come out a winner through housing and possible industry. And the biggest thing about industry is our own people that have moved from away out of the county, moved here, they don't want any industry. So what's the happy medium?
I think that's a very good question, and I think you're right. It's chicken and egg, but we don't intend to solve all the problems, and we know that there's other wraparound supports that are critical to attracting people here and to attracting businesses and doctors here to the region. You're going to hear about transportation. You're going to hear Ashley's report on daycare, which is critical to attracting residents to Prince Edward County. It's not just one thing. We have to all be working together to making sure that we're building housing, that we're attracting businesses, that we're providing daycare, that people have access to health care, that there are schools, available as well. I think those things together, which is why we're all working together with the same purpose and the same agenda to improve business and life in Prince Edward County together. I think these are big problems that we're trying to tackle, and we can't do that alone. The Chamber certainly can't do that alone without the support of the municipality and groups like Visit the County, working together to attract businesses, to attract professionals. The BRNE right now we're working on is on existing professional services. There are way more professional services here than I think we even imagined. A lot of them are just working from home, so they're not hanging out a shingle on Main Street, but they are generating wealth, they are generating a tax base, they are the ones who are purchasing homes. So there's a lot going on that we're all trying to solve. And I think everyone really wants to chip away at these issues and make things a little more affordable, a little more accessible, a little bit easier to do business in Prince Edward County. And I think by making these incremental changes, we end up with a better result.
Follow up? I appreciate everything you're saying, and I think you people at the chamber have been working hard for that effect. But I still maintain, no matter what, these people have got to earn money.
Absolutely.
The entrepreneurs that are moving in themselves and setting up business, that's wonderful. It's not only helping them, it's helping the whole county. But when we start talking thousands of houses, we're kind of out of the entrepreneur line, and we need substantial jobs. Up till now, I think as a county, we've kind of looked, well, let's have something in Picton. Tendency is there's a lot of people don't want anything with jobs. Or in the Wellington area, there's distance of the 401 and that. And I'm thinking that we've got Ameliasburg, but we've got Sophiasburg, which has tremendous lines, and when it comes to a factory or something, there's no reason why they couldn't put in their own water system right to the bay. I'm just hoping as you move ahead, you're looking at those areas.
As a resident of Ameliasburg, I'd love to see more growth and activity in Ameliasburg, so I don't have to travel so far. But yeah, we're about to hear what the federal government is going to do budget-wise. We'll see what they do on housing. We know the province is actively trying to, work on the housing crisis. It remains probably one of the largest issues that not just, the county is facing, but other municipalities as well.
Thanks.
Great, thank you. Councillor Maynard?
Thank you. Thank you, Duarte, for your presentation. I like the idea of a four-season economy. Climate change kind of has had a negative effect on that, right? Because, if people are not traveling to other destinations now for various reasons, we really have to find winter activities, right? So whatever you can do. I know that you can't improve the snow conditions or the ice conditions to what they would have been in years past, but so because it's a tourism thing, like how do we expand our limited opportunity for winter activities?
That's a great question. I'm glad you asked it because it's one we talk about all the time in the Four Seasons Economy Working Group, is because we know we can't plan on the weather, on snow, right? If it doesn't snow, there's no ice. If it's not cold, there's no ice skating. If it doesn't snow, there's no cross-country skiing. There's no snowmobiling. There's no snowshoeing or skating around there. So we know that we have to be more creative and look at other options to serve that winter market. Is it, Wander the Resort, who has a Nordic spa open year-round? Is it other wellness opportunities around it? Is it more of a focus on the arts that is not weather dependent for people to come out here and enjoy the county while taking in, whether it be public art or other galleries? We really have to get sort of the data and look at other opportunities that are not driven by the weather. We're lucky to have and be where we are, but no one can predict the weather, and it's very hard to invest in an activity or an event, and then it rains or it doesn't snow that day. So I think that's one of the challenges in looking at a four-season economy is what do we look at that can drive visitors and residents out in the winter that is not predicated on what's happening outside.
I'm just, as you talk about Ameliasburg and the Belleville and stuff, I just, your relationships with our surrounding Chamber of Commerce, because we kind of work in, I see us working in concert, right? Like they have some things that we don't and vice versa. How's the relationship with the Belleville, Quinte West Chamber of Commerce, right? Because we've got the fun place, and they have the, they have the industry and the major commercial areas. And I doubt, no matter how much we wish, that is going to, that's just a historic fact.
Yeah,
so how do you work together so that we can play off each other instead of being in competition with each other?
Oh, excellent question. Because so Suzanne at Quinte West and Jill at the Belleville Chamber of Commerce, we work exceptionally well together. I would argue they're facing even bigger challenges from a tariff perspective because the industry that they have there is greatly being impacted by that situation. But we also work together more broadly as well. We've formed what's called the Eastern Caucus, and it's regional chambers around here. It's Port Hope, it's Peterborough, it's Quinte West, it's Kingston, it's Belleville, it's Hastings, working together because we are all facing similar issues. And we work so well together that tomorrow Quinte West is holding the Quinte Business Awards. Emily and I sit on the committee as judges. We'll be attending it tomorrow while we watch the Jays game. And then, and I'm happy to say that there are many county businesses nominated for the Quinte Business Excellence Awards because we know business is not limited to the county. We've got visitors obviously coming in from Belleville and people going out onto Belleville and Quinte West as well. We are not an island, so to speak. So we know we need to work together again to solve these issues. And our voice together, when we raise it to the Ontario Chamber of Commerce, it has weight. The Ontario Chamber of Commerce then raises those issues to the Canadian Chamber of Commerce. At our policy resolution debate, we took 43 issues from across Canada that the Canadian Chamber of Commerce is going to raise to the federal government. That's the power of the Chamber Network, is that little Prince Edward County has a voice at the provincial table and the federal table because all the chambers come together and work together.
If I could just, if you don't, yeah, I guess that I really would like to see more of a regional, or to make sure that regional voice and that regional collaboration, because, people that choose to live in beautiful Prince Edward County, have, employment opportunities in Belleville, and the people that live and work in Belleville can come and enjoy, our amenities. So I really think that we need to make this we really need to emphasize that this is a regional economy. We don't have anybody to the south of us that we can play with anyways, but you know what I mean? I just want this to, I really would like to see this emphasize that this is a regional economy, and that we each have something a little different to bring to the table, and what helps one will help the other, and not get into the, the competitive who gets what. Yeah,
so tomorrow we are actually hosting, the three of us are hosting the Business Roundtable with MPP Tyler Alsop and MP Chris Millett to actually talk about Bay of Quinte issues, not individual issues, but issues that impact us as a group. I promise I will ask a question about County Road 49. I promise you, because we realize that that impacts the region as well. So those are the examples of us working together. And I think what you don't see is a lot of the advocacy work that goes on in the background that often takes a long time to get results. And then, the province or the feds will take credit for it. But that work started because chambers raised issues that they were hearing in their community and moved those issues up to the big table to have them solve those issues.
Thank you. Councillor Brainy?
Thank you, Chair Branderhorst. I'll get some guidance from Victoria maybe on this, the service agreement and partnership we had with the county last year between the Chamber and the county. The $50,000 agreement was highly successful this year. I would ask Victoria, would it be an appropriate time for me to make a motion to have that added to the budget this year so we can discuss that again, or would that be kind of an automatic anyways?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Madam Clerk. It always helps to have a motion to it. I would imagine we were proposing to do it anyway, but it does give good direction to staff if it is a council motion.
Okay. If the wording for that it would be that the service agreement between Prince Edward County, the municipality, and the Chamber of Commerce be added to this year's budget to have that renewed for another year. Or sorry, what was that? Yeah, that's it. Mayor Ferguson just brought up a good point, maybe just to receive the deputation and have it added on to that.
Through you, Madam Chair, yes, that would be appropriate to make another clause to the motion to receive.
Okay, so we have an amending motion to the motion to receive. I'm gonna, wait, we don't have a seconder as of yet. Okay, Mayor Ferguson, thank you. We got Councillor Maynard and Councillor Nyman, then Councillor Gross.
Thank you. Appreciate that, and I can support it. But I think anything that we're adding now into the budget, would you be amenable to using for consideration? I mean, I guess everything in the budget is for consideration, but we don't want to, predispose that any of these, things that new or that are added on. Would you be amenable as a friendly?
Absolutely. I think that would be good wording for consideration. I have no problem with that.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Councillor Nyman. Well, okay then, Councillor Grosso.
Thank you, Duarte. I like the aspect of shopping local, especially since the show that I was running there, What Did My Wife Buy Now, was canceled, and it's boosted the local economy.
Can you repeat the question on Mike?
Can we maybe set up some type of initiative with the members of the board to maybe hire local as well? Because I think when you're hiring local, it's that ripple effect that really helps the economy and helps the community. And I think a lot of tourists really, really enjoy or get a kick out of people that are working here and living here at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. We, our complete intention with everything we do is that we are focused on the workforce in Prince Edward County, and that we are increasing that workforce day in and day out. And I think one of the benefits of this four-season economy is that creates the opportunity for more social procurement. And that means businesses buying from other businesses in the county. That will in turn generate employment here. There'll be more people in the retail shops. There'll be more people at the wineries. There'll be more people providing services year-round that are living and working here. We're our own best ambassadors anytime. You know that. I know that we love living and working here. And when everyone has a touch point and meets someone, whether it be on the street, in the shop, that goes a long way in their impression of us and what they end up telling their friends and coming back because the experience was so positive here. And that's because of the people here. That's what people remember, is what experience they had here.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, and I appreciate the comment, Councillor Grosso, but it did take away a little bit from the amending motion, so if there's any more questions on the amending motion, I'm seeing none. Would we like a repeat of it or just vote? Okay, let's just vote on it. Seems like nobody needs that. Okay, so all in favor of Councillor Brady and and Mayor Ferguson's motion? Yeah. The amendment and then the...
Madam Chair, I think it was intended as one motion with two clauses, the first clause being to receive and the second to refer to the budget.
Fantastic. Thank you for that clarification. Okay, all in vote as the motion as a whole. That carries. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you. Moving on, we're going to go to comments from the audience, and we have one registered comment, Sarah Fox. You have 3 minutes.
Good afternoon, members of council. I'm Sarah Fox, Executive Director of Visit the County, and I'm pleased to be here today to speak to the economic snapshot that will be presented by Karen Palmer, and to highlight one initiative that represents a major step forward for tourism in Prince Edward County, which is the development of the Four Season Visitor Economy Partnership. This working group is the result of years of relationship building among 5 key partners, which includes Municipal Economic Development, the Chamber of Commerce, the Picton BIA, County Arts, and Visit the County. And all of us committed to strengthening the county's tourism economy. It's a partnership that has been truly long in the making, grounded in trust, collaboration, and a shared vision. And together we're creating a structure that will eliminate duplication, foster deeper collaboration, and find efficiencies in our funding, and ultimately become greater than the sum of its parts. The working relationship between these 5 partners is already incredibly positive. We've built a foundation that allows for open dialogue, shared problem solving, and a collective focus on what's best for both the community as well as the visitor economy. And I'm genuinely optimistic about what will come from this partnership, because when we work together, we're not just managing tourism, we're shaping its future. And we can already see that future taking shape. The season of visitors in the county is getting longer and longer each year, and our Air DNA data shows steady growth in occupancy well beyond the traditional summer months, with notable increases in September, October, and even into early winter. This means that visitors are choosing the county in what used to be considered the off-season, and that this has ripple effects across the entire economy. Our 16 Community Partnership Fund applications this year reflect that same trend. We're seeing new events being created with real visitor draw, and many of them are taking place in November and December, times that historically would have been quiet. And this year, Visit the County was able to invest $27,000 in funding across 15 events. By supporting these events, we're helping to build momentum for a true four-season visitor economy. And in many ways, this evolution is already happening naturally. Our role is to help the county prepare for it, to make sure that the growth happens sustainably and in line with community values. For example, programs like Countylicious, starting today, running till November the 16th, show what's possible. I'm almost done. Restaurants are able to hire seasonal staff earlier and keep them on longer. So imagine with the continuation of these programs, not too far from now, our hospitality will hopefully be able to offer full-time permanent employment year-round. And so I just want to thank you for your continued support as we take the next step together. The collaboration at the heart of the Four-Season Visitor Economy Partnership represents the best of what can happen when we align our goals and work together. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Sarah. I'm going to look to committee for comments. Councillor Roberts.
Thank you for getting my name right. That's great.
Took me 2 second pause there to be like, okay, just wait.
Sarah, you know how much I admire and appreciate what you're doing with Visit the County. But it's not a but, and I just want to take this opportunity while you're here and amongst us to ask you to consider, and this is about our 2 weekly newspapers and 99.3 County FM, that buying local, as Sam Grosso, or Councillor Grosso, mentioned, is so important for our local media and our local media jobs. It's really important, especially when we live in such a turbulent time where local stories and local news are so important to our sense of being and our sense of who we are, and are so often, at least in my experience and my neighbor's experience, my kids' experience, you know, those kinds of media, real local media, are getting increasingly rare, but also increasingly important, maybe even vital to our sense of identity, and are such an important antidote to the outrage and true misinformation that happens in social media and in the digital sphere. So I just ask you to, when you're looking at your pie chart of budget, to keep that in mind, that we really do need to support our local media. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Roberts. I would just like to agree with that comment and state that we have allocated a specific amount in our annual budget to engage with local media where it aligns with our priorities.
Perfect, thank you. Seeing no other comments, can I have a mover and a seconder to accept the, oh no, wait, because it's not a deputation. I am not rocking it today. Okay, is there thank you, Sarah. Is there any more comments, perhaps online? Oh, seeing no other comments. Any comments from the audience? Seeing none. Okay. Can I have a motion to accept the comments from the audience? Thank you, Councillor Prince and Councillor Roberts.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Prince and Roberts motion, we accept the comment from the audience on today's agenda item.
Thank you. All in favor? That carries. Excellent. Let's move on to section 6, items for consideration. First up is 6.1, report of the Community Service Programs and Initiatives Department dated October 23rd, 2025 regarding annual economic snapshot 2025. Karen, would you like to do a preamble to this? Because there's a little bit to it. Oh, let's get it on the floor. Thank you, Councillor Roberts. Councillor Roberts. Oh, there's a few hands. Councillor Grosso.
This is a Roberts-Grosso motion that report CSP-25-2026 regarding the annual economic snapshot 2025 be received, that the proposed terms of reference for an economic development working group available as attachment 1 to this report be approved, and that council nominate up to 2 council members as representatives of the economic development working group. Madam Chair, could I speak to this for maybe 90 seconds?
Sure.
Okay. I really support this motion, so that's not the question. And I extend my appreciation to Councillor Burney for being what I believe the key architect for getting us to this place. I was away when an earlier discussion on this topic occurred. And speaking of local media, I discovered in my mailbox suggestions or assertions from around the horseshoe that when the CEDC existed, I think some quotes were, it did nothing, in other words, it did absolutely nothing. And I just want to provide, for the purposes of that record going forward, some gentle corrections. And I admit, I speak only for the time that I was chair of the CEDC, when I was on the CEDC, and when I had an independent budget for the CEDC. So it's, you know, it's just framed that way. But I think what happened on the CEDC, and I'll go through what occurred there in a factual way, was evidence of real life proving that what this motion is getting at with the working group is possible and a good thing for us. So in terms of what the CEDC did within that frame that I've just mentioned, It recommended shoring up the destination development function in the face of taste folding at the time, and that was transferred as an independent DMF and taken in-house into community development and survived. It updated and expanded county branding. It did a community development strategic plan. It created, as was acknowledged in a local paper, a development framework that was focused on cutting red tape, streamlining development approvals and processes. It supported and directed on county marketing initiatives, and they were numerous, and they won many provincial and national awards. It funded small business services and support in the face of sharp provincial funding for exactly those things, and the potential loss of a dedicated person in the county and that job and that function. We supported that, and it went forward. Made the decision about reallocation funding that Ryan had kind of a dream of becoming the mayor of the city of Greater Quinte, and we reallocated that contribution to Bay of Quinte marketing to do what we're doing now, and that is visit the county, stay in the county. It ultimately came from that reallocation. There was a time when the chamber was struggling, and we provided, the commission, the CEDC provided funding to support, it was under the guise of marketing also, but it's basically funding to support the chamber and keep it going. And we were always, the CEDC, always a conduit for the Chamber of Commerce and its priorities to make sure that they were injected into council policies and decision-making. We did an expansion of wayfinding signage strategy. The CEDC also provided the initial direction and seed funding and recommendations on a number of initiatives that ended up becoming council initiatives once endorsed. Someone mentioned other entity taking credit for their work, but the CEDC initiated those things. The PEC, our County Affordable Housing Corporation, County Transit, the rental vacancy rate review, the Picton Harbor Vision, an excellent piece of work done through the CEDC by former Councillor Treat Hall and others, but he led it through the commission. Short-term rental licensing and review. Even though these things were ultimately seen as council achievements, they began at the Community Economic Development Commission. And of course, funding for vital signs and also vital signs priorities. We advocated on the commission for county infrastructure that was needed to support growth, and we established performance metrics. The first time KPIs were ever mentioned in this building, I believe, happened at the CEDC. And we reported on those KPIs. We reported on those KPIs annually and semi-annually to make sure that the council was fully in the know. And we were the very first instrument, body, committee, advisory, whatever, to invite youth onto our governance body, which became popular. But at the time, it wasn't popular. But we did it, and it was successful. And it engaged PECI and others in what the commission was doing. That's all I could come up with on a short one, but if anyone's interested in other stuff that we did, at least this gives you a sense of it wasn't nothing. It was quite a bit. Thank you.
Thank you. And now, thank you for that. And before we go into more comments from council, I'll let our staff speak to the report.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. This is a three-pronged sort of thing. It's a little bit of an overview on our last year in the economy. There's a little bit of an update on what we've been doing against the Economic Development Action Plan, and then there, of course, is the motion around the Economic Working Group. I actually put a subheading in the version that will go to the public saying this has been a bit of a challenging year. And I think when you look at the weather, when you look at Loyalist College and the cuts there, and when you think about Highline, those are three punches that I think our local economy is still sort of trying to figure out. I wrote in here that I think tourism has been a bright spot, that most accommodators in particular have had a good year. I think, as Duarte mentioned, we're not alone in sort of seeing that there's a lot of uncertainty in the economy and that people are being very cautious. Duarte and I had a really good interview yesterday as part of the Business Retention and Expansion Survey. We met with a local bank. And I think one of the things that may not come through in here is just how challenging it is for entrepreneurs right now to be able to grow, expand, or buy a new business because the lending is just not there. So it's become much more challenging to get commercial mortgages and also residential mortgages. And I think we're a little stuck between a rock and a hard place. I think it'll be interesting to look at what happens with the next interest rate, if there's another cut, and whether our housing market will cool down in any way or shift in any way. There's a lot of things on the market right now and a lot of things that are sort of sitting on the market right now. I highlighted in here that I feel a little bit of concern for our winery, cidery, distillery, the craft brewing or craft beverage. And I think we're having some good conversations with the wine growers in particular about ways in which we might access some funding to take a look at how we could work a little more collaboratively across those 3 or 4 different beverages and see whether we can really take advantage of what's happening at the provincial level in terms of opening up new markets. But I would say it's been a challenging time everywhere. I think in some ways it feels a little bit like a bubble when we see how much visitation we've had, but it certainly is going to be a challenging year for lots of folks.
Okay, perfect. First off, I have Councillor Brandy, then Councillor McNaughton, then Councillor Pennell, and Councillor Nyman. Let's get the list going. You ready? Are you ready? Okay, first out of the gate, Councillor Brandy.
Thank you, Chair Branderhorst. And thank you, Bill, for it. I didn't have a great deal of experience with CDC, but I appreciate you giving that synopsis of just the historical scenario with that. I am very excited about this. Obviously, everybody knows I've really enjoyed talking with Karen about it, and Duarte, Sarah, and Mark, which I'm glad you're all here. I think it's something that we all realize that having us all around the table and working together is always a great way forward, and I expect some great scenarios that come out of this. Councillor Naim, you have questions about manufacturing, perhaps. I'm not quite there yet. I don't see it, but I think it's important to have these conversations. I think what you've mentioned too, Bill, this group in a whole will enable conversations, and we can ask organizations that we're all working together with what their thoughts are. They may hear things that I guess the way I'm looking at it is it's not going to be siloed at all, and I'm excited about what may come out of it. These things always start small and sometimes end up turning into a really big win for the whole mandate. So we'll see where it goes, but looking forward. And thanks Karen, for all your help. And it's been a lot of fun sitting down with you, and I appreciate all your time and effort to try to put this together in a short period of time. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Moving on to Councillor McNaughton.
Hi, thank you. Thank you very much, Karen, for this report. And I think I very much like what I see. There were a couple of sort of questions that I had, and also a couple of thoughts that I had continuing. One of them is why have the smaller business associations not been included? That's a question out of the get-go. And is that something that is useful to explore? Because I don't know what their capacities are. The Wellington Business Association and BABA, I don't know. But I wonder if they would be interested. Additionally, I also just wanted to ask about sustainability and climate change, which a couple of our plans, one of which is referred to the regenerative tourism plan, which this I think would probably be something that this group is very aware of and working on according to the terms of reference. Is sustainability and climate change something that you could sort of work into the principles of this plan, or the principles of the terms of reference? Just for a start, I would want to hear your thoughts on that.
Thank you, Councillor McNaughton, through the chair. So we basically focused on folks who seeing Wellington or Bloomfield in there, but I think we're already starting to hear from others that they would like to be part of this discussion, particularly in the nonprofit sector. So I think we'll see how this goes, as I hope there will be a little bit of latitude to help us find our feet in the first little while and figure out who's there, how often, et cetera, et cetera. In terms of sustainability and climate change, I mean, I am open to suggestion on, where that would best fit. One of the things that's in there, I really did hear you talk about wanting to have this group achieve something and feel like it was, there for a purpose. So one of the things I talked about in there that we could potentially look at is the community improvement plan. And one of the things that I have been thinking about is how do we promote sustainable agricultural practices, or how do we embed that into things that we want to incentivize? I think there's a lot more work to actually stress test. If we make money available, is it actually going to do the thing that we think it will? And how much will it take? We don't have a massive budget, and therefore, how realistic can we be? But I think that's definitely, we've talked over the years about having Prince Edward County follow in the footsteps of other places that have made that really central to their identity as a destination. And it makes sense in our context because a lot of reasons why people come here is for the natural beauty and for the sandbanks and other things. Having a focus on doing what we can to protect the place where we live, work, and play would make sense.
May I follow up, Chair?
Yes.
Thanks. So thanks for that. I think there's a lot of room to be sort of highlighting Prince Edward businesses and Prince Edward industries, tourism, of course, as places that are concerned about sustainability and climate change. I'm just going to also say I recognize the very conscientious thoughts that have been and practices that the BIA, the Picton BIA, and the Chamber of Commerce, and of course yourself, have brought to the table as we've been working to develop a climate action plan, and everyone seems to be really on board to try to make relevant changes in practice, and so I just want to thank you all for that. And thank you, Karen, for being very thoughtful in that regard. Further to that, there's one thing that we've been looking at for a long time that's come up for discussion at this table many times over since at least 2020. And Councillor Prinzen and I have over the years been promoting and advocating for an actual county pass that provides those connections between, for example, that provides an avenue to connect small business with residents and to really promote, and that I think would be a really great part of the buy local connection point. And I might, and I think I'm interested in bringing forward a motion on that, but I'm just wondering if you've had some thoughts on that. It's something that we've encouraged in the past. It's never quite gotten done aside from the car hanger for the parking spot for the county, for the resident parking spots at a couple of locations across the county. But I think it has some real promise as far as promoting buy local, finding some avenues to get residents to really support the sort of economic framework throughout the county and provide some advantages for them. And I'm wondering if you would have any thoughts on the possibility of that. I think I would want to see if this group would be willing to consider adding that to their terms of reference.
So through the chair to Councillor McNaughton, I'm going to guess that when you're saying a county pass, what you're thinking about is like a discount card. When you go into a business, it says you get a 5 or 10% or whatever discount.
But not necessarily.
Like it's not necessary, but if the stores had something like that, that's kind of like Bailey's does it at their restaurant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They could provide rewards. It could provide like a permitted parking spots in front of the post offices in rural areas. Like it could provide advantages, but also connections and businesses could make offerings for residents who were pass holders. So
yeah, I mean, I think one of the things I would suggest there is, if you're amenable to it, if we could make that part of some of the consultations that we do with the four-season visitor economy. I realize that you're talking about more businesses than just tourism related, but that might give us a good sense of how much appetite there is for that. That kind of program really is a bit more of a sales role. It's really got to have somebody going around to the businesses and saying, you know, we want to sell you onto this card. It does take a bit of administration to figure out, you know, how it gets sold and other things. So I think it fits with this whole thinking about what's the strategy, what's the tactic, how much appetite is there for it, and how might we, as 5 different groups, partner on that if that was the direction of going forward.
I don't think it would be quite something that would require being sold to the community. It would be there available. I was thinking more in terms of sort of what was possible for some sort of county pass being part of this group's mandate to develop what that could look like. I think having a motion at some point to sort of, we've brought it forward as suggestions, and people have brought it into public consultations many times, but I think it's a real area of opportunity that keeps getting missed because it's never actually been brought forward as a let's do it, an actual motion. And I think it fits really well in with this group in the terms of reference to develop what it looks like. Would you have any thoughts on that? And after that, and I will leave it at that, Chair, I know I'm overstepping.
I mean, I guess through the chair to Councillor McNaughton, I don't have anything more to add to that. I guess I want to clarify, when I was talking about sales, I was meaning to the businesses directly, not to residents. So it does take a little bit of work to kind of pull that thing together and make sure. I mean, it reminds me 100 years ago when I was a student and you used to get that, you know, student discount pass. It is actually a sales, like it's a thing that is sold out to businesses. They have someone who runs that as a company. And so I feel like sitting behind me, there are 2 folks who have been down this road through the Picton BIA who've looked at this. And maybe it's worth, you know, making it a topic for discussion at the working group. I'm not opposed to it anyway. I think it's all worth, you know, exploring.
Thank you. I'm going to pause that conversation there as we were getting into motion territory, and let's keep going through the preliminary questions round. Councillor Pennell.
Yeah, I want to know, as you move ahead, are we working closely with our planning department? Because one of the biggest problems in this county in the past is if we have a new business wanting to start out, they have every roadblock thrown at them. And I can think of one in particular, and thank goodness our CEO or acting CEO, I believe, has got it under control now. But if a new business wants to start, I think there should be guidelines. So when you start out, you know what you're up against, rather than every time you turn around, we change the rules, charge you more money, and we've got one particular business that should have been open this year. Hopefully they'll be open next year. That's revenue loss for them. It's revenue loss for the county. I think it's shameful, disgraceful, and unprecedented that this sort of thing has went on in our county. And that's my feeling for the taxpayer. As far as who's trying to do the work, it's disgraceful. And I believe you can do a lot to work.
Councillor Pennell, our planning staff has been guided by previous council's decisions to okay.
Do you
and I just would like to say they are following the province and previous council's wishes, to make certain planning, I understand where you're coming from, and I would like to let staff now answer your question.
Well, I will, sorry, through the chair to Councillor Pennell, thank you for that. I think it's a perfect opportunity to say I've actually never been working better with planning in my time being the economic development officer. We have new staff, and I think there's a lot of new energy in that space, and I think there's a whole different mindset towards things. There is a natural tension between economic development and planning, because I'm always wanting to like, open the doors, let's go. And they, of course, have to think about, 7 generations from now, are we going to be able to have the land that we need and the things that we need? So I will just say, like, I have found it an amazing transformation in the last little while. And I think, actually, I'm not entirely sure of the date, but in the next few weeks, you're going to have a presentation from consultants who've been working on looking at our process. They did an amazing job mapping out, what a person goes through when they come to the county. In one instance, we had 100 touch points for someone who was trying to do something with their property. So we are definitely working on it. I hear you.
I appreciate that. And what's happened has happened in the past. It's disgraceful. It's nice to know. And I've said it the other night that we're moving ahead.
Madam Chair, I think he's still stretching it. I'd love to hear an example of what you're talking about.
I would personally, no. I would personally like to just end this conversation on that point. I think we're not getting into specific examples, and I don't think that it's nice to talk about struggle. Yeah, okay, that's an outdoor conversation. You can go have that in a park somewhere. Let's go and move on. Councillor Nyman?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I'm going to sound like a broken record, but I'll still say it. So, yeah.
What about the roundabout?
Well, yeah, that's good. So number 4, or no, page 14, the B-R&E, I guess, report. So it was focusing on professional services and remote workers and home-based businesses. I guess I just want to make, kind of bring a couple things that don't get lost, I guess. So the home-based businesses, they're good, but they're for 1 or 2 employees, and we don't get extra tax. It's still residential tax on that. The manufacturing is, we don't really want the big industry. We want the small and medium, and we want 10 of those, as opposed to 20 to 40 jobs, as opposed to a 500 job. They're more apt to stay here and stay in production and whatever. So with that, and this is the key point, is if you get those, they get, when it comes to property taxes, they're in a higher tax class than residential. So by having those, you gain revenue for the county, which could help the residential part of it. So I just don't want that to be lost. And I guess the working group, is that what they're going to be looking at? Like, I just want to make sure that, we're kind of heading in the right direction. As I said before, things are moving east, and we're in the prime location. So we just don't want to lose that opportunity. So how close are we to being ready for that?
Through the chair to Councillor Nyman. You and I have talked about this before, and I think what you'll see is in that list of members on the proposed economic working group, there actually isn't representation from manufacturing or industry. So it has the potential to get to get lost in there. I do feel a little bit of pressure. 10, I'm one person. So I feel like, if we get to a point with the committee that we can do subcommittees that look at this more directly, where there are more hands on deck to kind of really look at what's out there, what do we have. I think there's a proposal coming forward in the budget around employment lands and what we do have available. I think it will be a very interesting exercise to see how it goes with the Highline Mushroom building and property, to know sort of what is the value proposition that Prince Edward County has. There was a comment made when Duarte was speaking about, we have some residents who don't want industry, and I think there is also a conversation to have about what is it that we want? What do we see as our value proposition? It doesn't have to be a smokestack that's belching out, pollution. Where can we lean into? And, I will say it's encouraging. I think both Duarte and I get calls really often from folks who are saying, I'm looking at this. It is a bit of a long game to sort of figure out what's the right piece of property. At some point down the road, we may also have a conversation about how do we incentivize business to come here. But I think maybe we'll save that for a day when all of us are prepared, but yeah.
Yep.
Well, thanks for the explanation. And I guess one thing, and I'm not sure where, it might have been in this report, where it says, the number of wineries, and I think you had said it, that the breweries and stuff that are being sold or starting to be overgrown or whatever. And that's one piece that was Prince Edward County was built on, and attracting the tourists. But if we lose that, what do we have to fall back on is the next question. And if they're gone, and let's just say in the next 5 years, we lose those or more, what do we have? That's, because, and I don't know how many employees are in that class, but they'll be out of work, and then where are they going? So that's kind of what I'm looking at.
Through the chair to Councillor Nyman, you're talking about my nightmares and why I have dark circles under my eyes. I think it's very real. And when I talk with the wine growers, we're really at a point too where, the industry has existed for 25 years, and folks who came in those early years are now looking to retire and not have to work as hard as they're working right now. We've been talking about, initially it was around the trade affected communities fund, because there is money available through the province and it's 100% funding. It doesn't have to be matched. We aren't super well suited for it, but I think it's really in the hands of the wine growers whether they want to go for it. I'm going to help them support with writing whatever they need me to write grant-wise. We've been in really close contact with Austin Brown, who is our advisor at OMAFA, who works on food and beverage. It's a new position and he is super keen. I think we're really looking at, the succession planning piece, and I think you can only lead a horse to water there. You can't waterboard it. And I think we're also thinking about what is the opportunity that exists for us now that, the province is signing MOUs all over the place. So I don't know. I think there is things that I look at in the future. I mean, it has been really illuminating to talk with professional services and remote workers. I think they are much easier to attract when we talk about housing because we don't need to build a job for some of them. They come with a job. But yeah, I mean, this is why it feels urgent that, all of these places are for sale and we don't. I mean, it just has such a big ripple. If that decreases, then so does our appeal as a destination. And that then starts to have other impacts on lots of other businesses.
Thank you. Councillor Maynard?
Thank you. Thank you for the report. So this is a kind of, I shouldn't say an ad hoc, but an ad hoc working group, correct? Okay, so it says 8 hours of municipal staff 4 times a year. Is that really realistic?
Yes. Well, through the chair, I'm going to do my very best to make sure that we are a very efficient group. There's a lot of different groups that I meet with, and yeah. I like to think that we only meet when we've got something to really talk about and an agenda that feels meaningful to folks who are attending.
Right, so because it's a working group, the organizations that are involved will also be part of kind of the legwork, right? That they will do their own reports and they will come together and then they, talk it out and try and see where they can find. Is that the intent?
Through the chair, there will definitely be an impact on their time as well to sort of sit through these meetings. And I think, it does become a snowball rolling downhill. The more you get together, the more ideas you get and the more you want to go after things.
Yeah, so when you say working group, right, it's not, I don't see them just sitting around the table. I see them being the active drivers of this, right? This is not really a staff or a county initiative. We are only facilitating those groups coming together. Is that when I say working group, right?
So through the chair, I mean, I think that is what Councillor Brainy had sort of envisioned, that this starts as a way of just making good connections, getting people to know each other, trust each other, and work better together. Where it goes from there, I guess we'll see.
And just because we're so close to budget, so it says the working group won't have a dedicated budget, but there'll be funding required to support grant applications will be included in the CSPI department budget. So that would be because we're now November, right? So that would be, so they'll work through this year, come up with some stuff, and that would be for the 2027 budget?
Through the chair, yes. I mean,
Okay.
I don't think there's anything planned for 2026. Things come up and we'll see what happens, but no, there's nothing in the 2026 budget.
Okay.
We'll need to sort of figure that part out.
And just one more thing. On the under responsibilities of the working group, blah, 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 contribute to consultations aimed at developing a framework for spending the municipality's portion of the municipal accommodation tax. And I think this council has already made a pretty strong recommendation or direction that since we have a staggering asset management deficit, particularly in our roads, and we know that the tourist economy has had an effect and will continue to have an effect on our roads, both on the condition and for their safety. So that bullet point under responsibilities 1, 2, 3, 4, I want to be able to support the motion, but I would just, even if we leave it blank to be determined, right? But to, aimed at developing a framework for spending the municipal portion of the MAT tax that is really the only part that I cannot support. So if the mover wants to make that a little less open-ended and not be part of the responsibility, then I will support. But
yeah, can I jump in and respond through the chair to Councillor Maynard? I might actually look at Emily for a second, because this is actually my colleague Julianne Sneps, I think, is intending to do these consultations next year. She flagged this for me that she didn't think it was clear enough in here, but I'd already submitted the report. What we're really thinking about is, as we do those consultations, this group will be one of the groups that is involved in those consultations. But maybe Emily can do me the favor of explaining what is behind that.
Through the chair to Councillor Maynard. So Karen is absolutely right. So in this context of this working group terms of reference, it would be to support the consultations of an overall MAT policy consultation review. It came to council earlier this year. I don't have the dates in front of me, wasn't expecting this question, but this is going to be a consultation to the residents and businesses of Prince Edward County to understand how they believe that MAT should be spent in Prince Edward County. So this, for the purposes of this subject that we're talking about and the terms of reference, it is to support consultation.
Okay, so the decisions and directions we made on the MAT tax, you're saying now we're going to open it back up for a further review?
Through the chair to Councillor Maynard, as far as I am aware, the decisions made at budget and the use of MAT have been year-on-year decisions. There has been no policy or framework approved by council.
Okay. I understood it as pretty clear direction, but I'll have to, that's buried, so I'll have to, okay.
Councillor Roberts.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you. Karen, I just want to say it's a great report. I think others have said that, but I'll say it's a great report. And I really like your responses to the questions that are being posed to you around the horseshoe, so good for you. So one part of what I want to say is a bit of a comment, and then there's the questions. So the comment is I think when it comes to manufacturing, there are two essential ingredients. One is the ability to provide pretty considerable sunk capital costs, and the other is reliable and sustainable markets. And in the context of what we're seeing right now, CUSMA, or Canada-US-Mexico agreement, will be up for review next year. No one is optimistic. Magna Auto in Belleville and Hannon Systems in Belleville. Auto parts manufacturers are being hammered. And so it's going to take some time to replace a U.S. market for, scaling up to be a realistic and credible manufacturer. Relying solely on the Canadian market will not be sufficient for any real major investment. And those new markets are possible. I mean, India, the United Kingdom, we're on the threshold of the UK, Europe, but they will take some time still to get those trade agreements in place. This week Finland decided they wanted a trade agreement with us. So there's long timelines on getting something that's really sustainable in the manufacturing world in Quinte, let alone or new, I should say, in Quinte, let alone in the county. The question part comes from all the references to wineries this afternoon. You used the term worried. I think there's so many meetings, but I think it was at council on Tuesday, if I'm not mistaken, we heard from a pretty reliable voice, credible voice that, whether it's 46, I should say, or 48 wineries down to 20 in the foreseeable future. Is that your worry, that shrinkage? Is that your worry? And it's not unusual to have consolidation in a highly fragmented marketplace. So that's kind of understandable, but it usually takes place over time. It doesn't take place in what I got the sense of being imminent from Tuesday night. That's really unusual. So a 60% decline in a short time frame, if that's what we're looking at, is really unusual. So what would the impact of that be, and what can we do about it?
So through the chair to Councillor Roberts, I think, we are kind of looking at what I kind of sat down with MLS and went through and looked at how many different ones are for sale and how many I think are for sale quietly. I think the knock-on effect is that our destination, what sets us apart from a lot of other rural destinations is that we do have a VQA. We have a wine region. We're one of only 3 in Ontario. And I think that has also attracted a lot of the food and beverage here. I think there's, possibilities of us, pivoting a little bit and trying to become more family friendly or, make it work with 20. There was a time period when the county had about 20. It grew to 40. But I think it's all of that growth lost. And I think why it feels so imminent is because what can happen with this is it's not a gradual decline. If they decide to stop producing wine and they decide to stop caring for the vines, it happens pretty quickly that they deteriorate. I think this is, I find it really challenging, I have to say, in the context of how we think about land planning. And I don't just mean in Prince Edward County, I mean generally as a province. I think some of the wine growers are very convinced that, the way forward is not more vines and more grapes, it's more diversification within their operations. And I think when we think about all of those people who have their places for sale right now, if they have not been able to make a significant go of it and have books that really show to a prospective buyer, this is a going concern. I don't know why we would expect someone to buy them at a high price without the ability to do more than they're doing now. So we're really in a weird space. And so I think there was a discussion about, doing more consultation and more thought around the wineries in particular and how it relates to OFDUs, because there isn't a really clear path forward. And my colleagues in planning are in some ways constricted by what exists in the province and the kind of guidelines and guidance they have to face. And even when the province says back to you, well, they're just guidelines, they're not regulations, it comes back to bite you when it comes to a land tribunal. And so it isn't as clear cut as saying, well, they just said it was a guideline, so we can go well above that and allow them to do 5% of their land or 10% of their land. So I think it's very valuable to have these moments where we can be talking as a group, sitting down with wine growers and others. I think there's a lot of potential, we've kind of gotten away, and part of what prompted the conversation with wine growers has been around, we have an association that's membership is spiraling. And so it's harder for us to show value to our members and convince them to come back to us. And that's, they're so lean. how are they going to do events? How are they going to do things where it does start to provide that diversification without having to take up space on their own property? So I think we just need to be much more creative and actually put some real thought towards it. And I think getting folks involved, thinking about how do we get this to feel urgent to folks around us. And I think we should be reaching out much more to, you know, both Dan and Aaron sit on the Ontario Craft Wines. I would love to know more about what is in their minds and what's in Niagara's minds as we think about, you know, suddenly we have an opening with Nova Scotia. They have beautiful wine, we have beautiful wine, right? What can we do to kind of get that moving a little more?
We actually have some transplants from Prince Edward County to Nova Scotia wineries.
That's right,
There's some
from
connections
your
there.
neighborhood, right?
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, thank you, Karen. I'm really glad you're doing this. I really appreciate it.
Councillor Princeton?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just, excuse me, going over the terms of reference, you mentioned that most of them were paid positions. That's why they're there. Seeing the Vice President of the Prince Edward Federation of Agriculture, I know you want a member, Councillor Brainy wanted a member of the Agriculture. Does it have to be the Vice President? Because I know there are executive changes, or can it just be any member? That's one question or comment.
I'm glad you brought that up, Councillor. As a matter of fact, the other evening at our Federation meeting, we had nominated Bob Rogers to represent the Federation on that.
So it could just, we could scratch Vice President, just put one member of the Federation.
Sure, exactly. Yeah, because it could have continuity for the future, so just one member.
Okay.
It doesn't need to be the Vice President.
Yeah, I was just worried about somebody became Vice President, didn't, you know, this wasn't their passion or wasn't their time. So that's one. And I'm gonna bring it down, what Councillor McNaughton was talking about, and she threw my name in there, which is great too, because I've been lobbying it too. And I honestly think you're looking too hard into it. I think it's basically, it's like the parking pass, right? That the stores around the county can know that we offer this pass to our residents, and they could say, you know, if 5% off. Stores don't have to. You don't have to try and sell it to anybody. You know, if somebody comes into CAO Goheen's new store that he's bought with his spare time, he could say, oh, you know, like as a county person supporting a county business, I'll give you 10% off. That's all it is. And if you wanted to come back to this group, that's fine. It was just, it's gotten lost the 7 years I've sat around here, and I don't want to get lost anymore. So you tell us where you want to go, but that's, you know, that's kind of what we were thinking. I'm saying it in maybe a few less words, but don't look too deep into it. It's like a get out of jail free card, but it's like stay in the county for free. But you understand what I'm trying to say, and so I will take your advice as to where you want to go. If you don't want a motion coming forward at this table, that's fine. But we want to see something. So I'll leave it to you.
Through the chair, I serve at your direction, so wherever you want to put it, we'll make sure it happens.
Wrong answer. If you promise us it, okay, well, I'll wait till comments are coming in done, and then maybe I'll throw something out and see what kind of. But I wanted to. I just think you're looking too deep in trying to sell. We handed out those parking things in a matter of days at the front desk of Karen. It's kind of the same type of deal. It's an expanded parking pass.
Perfect, thank you. Councillor Harrison?
Yes, I have more of a kind of a flashback comment to make, and because I'm going back a little further. You said 100 years in your case. I'm 150. So there we go. This sort of touches on what Councillor Pinnell was saying, but many terms ago, Councillor, I think she may have been warden then, Lindsay McDonald, we talked about in the county here trying to create what we called at that point in time Harrow-Smith lots of a 10 to 20 acre nature on rural land or farms that were bought up, the surplus farm dwelling thing. And the reasons that at the time that we thought this was a good thing, and it's kind of coming into play from what you're saying here today, it maintained rural integrity, for one thing. There weren't little urban type lots with the houses. It supported the agribusiness sector because most of these people either grew horticultural crops or livestock of one sort or another, so they were doing business at the local feed market and this and that and the other thing. It reduced rural complaints because the lots were big enough that it wasn't very long, the people on them were doing something that they could relate to the farming community on the problems that some urban people perceived that they had because they bought the 1 or 2 acre lot. And it allowed for quite a bit of flexibility and innovation at the same time. When these people settled on these lots, they had ideas and the way they went. We've sort of, that's basically, as Councillor Pennell was saying, is more of a planning matter. If we could create a designation like that, we can't do it today, I realize, but right away. And back to the wineries for a minute. I don't know of one old county family that came through the canning era, and et cetera, and this cash crop end of it in the county that went into grapes. I can't name one because most of us had enough of that. And we had a 1-year turnover. If you grew tomatoes, peas, anything, it wasn't even in some cases a year turnover. You did your work, you produced your crop, got your money the same year. It wasn't long term. And most of the people, new people that are in the winery business or created the winery business. I have an uncle that was in racehorses, and he compared at the time the wineries with the racehorse business. There's an odd winner, but they're basically vision driven. They have this vision of the rural life and going out and having a glass of wine and one thing and another. And one person I knew that got really into this, and we had one long night of sampling the product and quite a discussion. But he set out 3 acres of grapes, and this was his vision coming from the city. He says, I think it'll make 3,000 bottles of wine. And he said, I drink 1,000, I sell 1,000, and I break even. So that's some of my background, and I wanted that flashback bit because this has been debated before, what we should do in these rural areas, some of them, and that would maintain that integrity when other things are falling for the tourism business as well, because it doesn't change the rural landscape that much. Anyway, so much for that.
Perfect. Thank you, Councillor Harrison. Mayor Ferguson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I don't know if this is a place to raise this or not, Karen, but the report's terrific. It's really well done. I presume this group will be looking at, in their discussions, infrastructure of all sorts will be assessed and analyzed and talked about. I would like to suggest that part of that infrastructure be an assessment of the hydro grid to service Prince Edward County. I had discussion with someone from Hydro last week who was made the comment that the grid servicing our area was not designed for what is occurring, and we have to, make adjustments and plan forward to accommodate whether it's industry or the Nyman Convention and Ice Palace or anything else, the ability to actually power it. So it's not just roads, water and that sort of thing. It's also electrical sourcing to support any kind of largish business or industrial entity that may want to establish themselves in Prince Edward County. So I'm just bringing that forward as something that needs to be considered as you go through this process. Thanks.
Thank you. And on that note, let's start moving. We got a few potential motions that have been suggested. So I'm going to go back to Councillor McNaughton, who has been waiting patiently. You have the floor.
Thank you. Actually, we're just, Phil and I are just discussing a potential motion with Victoria.
We can flip it, Councillor McNaughton. I can speak to it.
Go for it.
Okay, so we're looking to add to number 2. So number 2 would say that the proposed terms of reference for the Economic Development Working Group available as attachment 1 to this report be approved and expanded to explore the development of a business-friendly county pass with the goal of supporting increased traffic to county-owned businesses. Was kind of our thinking. So I'll just put it out there. We can vote on it quick. It doesn't take a lot of discussion. I think we've had an hour and a half of it, so we're good.
Yeah, I think it's pretty straightforward at this point. We've had a few conversations on it. I'm going to call a vote on the amending motion. All in favor? That carries. Fantastic. Next up is Councillor Maynard.
Madam Clerk, do you have something drafted?
Through you, Madam Chair, just based on your comments, the draft motion that I had prepared was that the following motion be, or the foregoing motion be amended to add the following words to clause 2, subject to removing references to the municipal accommodation tax from the working group's list of responsibilities.
Great. Once again, I think that's pretty straightforward. But we do need a seconder on it.
That the foregoing motion be amended to add the following words to clause 2, subject to removing references to the municipal accommodation tax from the working group's list of responsibilities.
May I think instead of responsibilities, using that as it was more a funding source. I think is that sorry.
Through you, Madam Chair, I believe the terms of reference talks about it. This working group is contributing to the consultations around the future framework for the use of the MAT, the tax. It's not committing the funds for this, any outcomes of this working group at all. It's to help influence the future discussion around the use of those funds.
Okay, there's still no seconder.
Okay. Yeah, because my intent was just to make sure that we're not using the MAT tax funds in any, because it did say request, but there was some language. It's a big report. Thank you.
The motion is pulled.
Yep,
okay, excellent. Any other motions? Okay, let's call the vote on the main motion as amended. All in favor? That carries. Fantastic. Thank you for sitting so long in that hot seat. We might put a plaque on it. Excellent. Let's move on to 6.2.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Did you wish to deal with the nominations at this point?
Silly me. Ashley, you can stay in the chair if you want and get comfy because we're just voting right now. So, silly me. I shouldn't have jumped to it because we got a vote on 2 council members being a part of this economic working group. Yeah, she's going to be fast. Okay, let's do this. Who wants to nominate anyone on this? Okay, we got Councillor Grosso. Who do you want to nominate?
Thank you, sir. I'd like to nominate Councillor Nyman.
Councillor Nyman, do you accept? He said sure in case anybody didn't hear that.
Sure.
Okay, fantastic. Councillor Roberts.
I'd like to nominate Councillor Brainy.
Councillor Brainy, do you accept?
Could I speak to it quickly?
You know what? You go for it.
As everybody knows around here, I'm a big apostle for governance and succession. As I've told many of you around here, it's very important to me to have the continuity on there. I appreciate the confidence, Councillor Roberts. I won't be running in the 2026 election. My wife, my daughters, my friends, neighbors, and my animals would like to have me back. So I think it's very important, I believe, to have a councillor on there that's going to have some continuity. I do have a great deal of, Karen is so passionate about this too. If I can throw it out, I think she should chair this and be at the head of this, but I would decline just based on that, because I feel that going into this, I believe that this group will bear some really good fruit for the municipality, and I believe that continuity should continue with somebody that may very well carry into it the next term. So no.
Thank you. And just your mic. Oh, look at you. Councillor Nyman?
Councillor Grosso, I'll nominate him.
Okay, Councillor Grosso, do you accept?
I do accept, but that doesn't mean I'm going to be running in the 2026 election. But anyway, that's.
Mayor?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, with continuity in mind, I'd like to nominate Councillor Roberts because of his experience with the CEDC that may lend itself in the early stages of this group.
Councillor? That was quite a nice, quite a nice reason.
I believe that I resemble Councillor Brainy's remarks. And we already have two very credible nominees in Councillor Grosso and Councillor Nyman, so I will defer. But thank you. Thank you for that.
This is becoming more of a. Okay, Councillor Maynard.
I would like to nominate Councillor Prinzen. This is a lot of this is around agriculture, and I just think it would behoove us if he would be willing to step into that position with his vast amount of knowledge.
I hold my cards close to my chest, and I got two guys with right hands that can give me a hook on my right side that are been nominated. I will respectfully thank my nominator, but I will decline.
Excellent. Councillor Harrison? Yes, Councillor Brainy.
If I could speak to that, just with the vision, I think the intent of the group, I think it would be very important to have the mayor of our council I believe that would offer some continuity as we move forward to have that. So I think that's.
Is he going for a third term? Another guy going for a third term.
Mayor, I believe that's a nomination to accept.
Ex officio.
A question I'd like to ask the clerk.
Use your microphone, please, if you do.
Sorry, a question to the clerk. I am effectively a member of all committees. Would that not apply in this instance as well?
I believe it would. You are, I'm not sure if this falls into the category of a committee, but you are a member of everything.
So I can show up anyway.
I think you could.
Okay.
So
that's done.
So
Over
on
to
that
you two
note,
guys.
Mayor Ferguson can crash that party when he feels like it. Okay, we got two councillors on the floor. We got Councillor Nyman and Councillor Grosso being a part of this working group. All in favor? That carries. Excellent. I'm going to actually call a 10-minute break now before we start, just to not get halfway throughout a conversation and then need a break. Okay, we'll be back at 3 o'clock. Councillor
Robert, if you need an extra 10 minutes.
I hope I didn't put you on the spot. I just think it's important.
No, but I go to all these things anyway, so.
It's a good point.
That's a good order.
Yeah.
And it's good you got clarification, so they know.
Excellent. Yes. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to our Committee of the Whole today. There's a... Okay, we got it. 6.2, report of the Community Services Programs and Initiatives Department dated October 23rd, 2025 regarding childcare task team recommendations and action plan. Can I please have, before you get to speak on it, a mover and a seconder to put this on the floor? Councillor Engelsdorfer, Councillor Nyman.
Thank you. It's an Engelsdorfer Nyman motion that reports CSP 22-2025 regarding the childcare task team recommendations and action plan be received. The Council endorsed the Child Care Action Plan available as Attachment 1 to this report as a roadmap for community collaboration, advocacy, and municipal actions over the next 1 to 3 years. The Council dissolved the Child Care Task Team and send a letter of appreciation to members. That the Mayor and Council actively advocate for a 30% increase in the local allocation of Canada-wide early learning and child care spaces through a range of approaches, including collaboration with the local Member of Parliament and Member of Provincial Parliament, coordinated delegations, and a letter to the Ministry of Education to secure increased and sustainable funding for childcare until the allocation of additional licensed spaces is confirmed, and that Council approve the carryover of $10,000 in unspent funds from the Community Services Programs and Initiatives Department 2025 budget and include $40,000 in the proposed 2026 Community Services Programs and Initiatives operating budget to support childcare pilot program activities outlined in the action plan in the event that external funding is not secured.
Thank you for that. And Ashley, you're up to the plate.
Thank you. So through the chair to council, first off, before getting into the report, I just wanted to thank the members of the task team that worked on this for their time, their input, and their thoughtful discussion over the past few months. We had a really great group of people that came together, and this report today is a collective reflection of their efforts. I also just wanted to flag Councillor Nyman and Councillor Engelsdorfer were part of this process as well, and so we thank them for their time and input on this. So this report really stems back to the Economic Development Action Plan that Karen presented in January of this year. And this came from the BRNE study where employers flagged a lack of childcare as a major barrier to business growth and expansion. So in response, Council asked for this task team to form to look at the current childcare situation and to come up with some realistic ways that we can help support and encourage more spaces here. Economic development is where this started, but the more we looked into this and dug into it, we really saw that childcare plays a really big role in reducing poverty, in food security, in supporting healthcare, and just sort of generally supporting families that help contribute to a vibrant community. In Ontario, municipalities are actually mandated to provide childcare services, and that responsibility here is contracted to PELUS, to social services. And they deliver the funding based on what the province allocates through their formula, which hits about a third of children who are in the age range of needing childcare. So even though it's a municipal responsibility, a lot of the funding and decision-making rests at the provincial and federal levels of government. But even though this is the case, there are still some meaningful steps that the municipality can take to support the local system. And that's what we worked through with the task team, was really to come up with recommendations that are balanced, that are achievable, and reflect what the municipality can reasonably take on at this time. And so the attachment includes a whole suite of recommendations, and I won't go through them all in detail, but I just wanted to highlight the ones that requires council's decision today. So the first is endorsing the plan as a roadmap for ongoing work and to ensure continued progress. So we just want to make sure that childcare is carried on, and I made the comment to the task team that it feels like we started quickly and had some really great meetings and progress, and then we're wrapping things up. But I think it really just reflects the beginning of the work that needs to happen to be able to start making some progress towards childcare. The second is looking at a pilot program. So knowing that a lot of the regulations are with the province and federal government, there are some things that we can do, and so that's what we're hoping to pilot through this program. We will be working to put in an application to the Vital Impact Fund through the County Foundation to fund this pilot. And it's really about looking at transportation for ECEs and child care workers, looking at some after-hours care for people who are working sort of outside of the typical hours of Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, and a child minding service that some community members have brought forward as an idea. So we're hopeful that we'll get some funding through the Vital Impact Fund, but if we don't, we are hoping to have a placeholder in the budget and carry over some funds from 2025 to be able to fund this work, but it's only if the funding doesn't come through. And the third decision point is just around supporting advocacy efforts. So what we found really is the biggest impact that we can make on childcare is advocating at the provincial federal level for them to allocate more spaces to Prince Edward County. This is one of the top recommendations because it would be difficult until there's more spaces allocated to make any more. So those are the three decision points today, and I will leave it there, but I'm happy to answer questions.
Okay, great. Thank you for that, Councillor Pennell. Councillor Nyman?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, when it gets down to the fifth point there, if we don't get the funding, or if we don't, what's the $50,000 going to be used for? What is the taxpayer going to get out of that $50,000? I guess proper way of putting it.
So through the chair to Councillor Pennell, so the $50,000 would be a pilot program to support childcare. So there's three main things. There would be, we'd be looking at some transportation options, so similar to the Health Pulse shuttle. What we heard is that transportation is a barrier for some ECEs. So like many sectors, staffing is a challenge, and part of that is getting staff to various sites throughout the county. And so if we could look at that model and see if there's ways to do something similar, if we can be helpful in getting staff where they need to go, then that would be able to help create more spaces and be able to provide more service. And the other part of it is piloting some care options for people, for families, caregivers who don't work traditional hours. So right now, care in the county is limited to during the day and not on weekends. And so we would be looking at providing some after-hours care possibly for people who work in retail and hospitality. They work shift work. They might not have that Monday to Friday, 9 to 5 job. And then the third piece of this would be more of a grassroots child minding system where it could be a drop-in thing where there would be someone there to help with childcare, and then a parent or caregiver could work remotely from the same space. So it's just trying to look at what we can achieve and what is within the municipality's sphere of influence, and working with partners sort of at this early stage before there's more funding allocated by the higher levels of government.
Quick follow-up. You've answered my question somewhat, but my main concern is it going to be part of it covering transportation? Is part of it covering the actual cost? Is it in coordination with government assistance towards it? And that's where I'm getting at. What kind of bang for the buck is the ordinary taxpayer? Because let's face it, countywide, and I appreciate we've got to help kids, all we are. 65% of the population in Prince Edward County probably have kids, but there might be grandchildren or great-grandchildren going to be using it. And I'm trying to establish, is there a benefit to every taxpayer in this county from that? I think there is to a certain extent, but I think people want to know that before we start committing money before budget.
So through the chair to Councillor Pennell, one thing we found is that when there is childcare in place for all families and caregivers, it does help to contribute to more vibrant communities. So it supports healthcare. If you have childcare, then you're able to go to work, and then your income, your family income might be higher, and so that has spin-off effects for other parts of the economy and sort of overall community well-being. So it is something that would benefit beyond just folks who have children.
Councillor Nyman?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for the report. I think page 47. It's the planning land use policy. I think when we were discussing Coal Creek development, we had mentioned about commercial blocks so that, you know, childcare could be a part of that in there if somebody wanted to open up one. And I think the former CAO at that meeting said that we could put something in there that it's as of right, that they didn't have to go get rezoning. So I just want to make sure that that's there. And I think, and I could be wrong, I don't know if we made a motion to that effect, but I remember, and I'll look back in the meetings on the video to see that, but that's what I recall her saying, that it was an as of right for those new developments. So I don't know if you have a comment on that.
Through the chair to Councillor Nyman, so we do have recommendation number 4 that looks at planning and land use, and the first part of the recommendation is to ensure that zoning for childcare infrastructure is appropriately designated in new institutional and residential developments, so that childcare centers can be established if and when more childcare spaces and funding becomes available. So I think that is sort of in response to those conversations and would be that as of right. I'll check in with planning and just make sure, but I think that's the understanding. The other piece is that childcare is also mentioned in the community benefits framework, and so when developers are looking at new developments, childcare is in there as one of the priorities for what the needs of the community are.
Thank you.
Thank you, and I'm going to take a chance to speak off of that and ask a question, which is, I understand that allocating of 30% increase, sometimes you just need to get more spaces, but currently with Pellis, part of the issue that we are hearing as Pellis board members is, or committee members, is that Prince Edward County isn't also using its spaces. We have access spaces in our, especially some of our more rural communities, Athol, Sophiasburg, and I believe Ameliasburg area are the 3 main areas that still have spaces. You can shake your head, but look at Pellis statistics. So how can we allocate, and part of the reason why we're not using those spaces is because we don't have the service centers. That consistently keeps coming up, and that we don't have then the building space to use those spaces. So like, I do appreciate, do you want us to advocate? Sure. Do you want increases to me personally, a little bit of a Band-Aid situation? I'm not sure, because if we're not getting down to the root of the problem, which, like, from what we have heard over and over again, is that we need buildings to be built, and we need spaces to be created. That's my main issue right now with this, is that we're not, and it's hard to advocate for more spaces when we're not using them, and LNA just used up 30. So like, I don't know.
So we had Pellis on the task team as part of the membership, and I can confirm there are 324 licensed spaces now that are all in use, and there are 57 to 59 that are in the planning stage, but my understanding is that all of the spaces that are available are allocated, and there can't be any further expansion until we have more spaces allocated from the province. So it might be a school age thing that is a little bit different, but this is for full day care.
You know what? I like to hear that. Maybe that number has not come to the board yet because it hasn't been confirmed. Like if it's allocated but not been confirmed and used, I don't mind hearing that. That's a good news story to me. You want us to raise voices then? That sounds great. Let's get more spaces. So thank you for that clarification. I do appreciate it. Sorry, I had to look for other people there. I was like, who's up next? Anyways, sitting back. I don't see anyone up next, so let's call a vote. And all in favor as the motion is written. That carries. Okay, excellent. Thank you for that. And moving on. To 6.3, report of the corporate and legislative services. Man, are you guys sick of us yet today? Because it's all your team. Department dated October 23rd, 2025 regarding taxi bylaw update. Can I have a mover and seconder to put this on the floor? Councillor Nyman, thank you. Councillor Pennell.
It's Councillor Nyman Pennell motion that report CLS 13/2025 regarding the taxi bylaw update be received. That bylaw XX 2025 being a bylaw to regulate and license vehicles for hire and repeal bylaw 63/2020 be approved at the next feasible council meeting. That bylaw 63/2020 being a bylaw to regulate and govern taxi cab, limousine business and delivery business regularly used for hire. Their owners and operators in the County of Prince Edward be repealed in full effective April 1st, 2026. That the fees as set out in attachment 2 of this report and the fares as set out in attachment 3 of this report be approved. That the set fine schedule for contraventions of bylaw XX 2025 as set out in attachment 5 to this report be approved. That staff be directed to apply to the Ontario Court of Justice for approval of set fines and contraventions of bylaw XX 2025. That the implementation of administrative monetary penalties for contraventions of bylaw XX 2025 as set out in attachment 4 to this report be approved, and that consequential amendments to the fees and charges bylaw, administrative penalty bylaw, and appeals committee bylaw required to implement bylaw XX 2025 be approved.
Would you like first speaking on this, or would you like the director to speak first?
Oh, yeah, she can, and then.
And then you can, sure. And then you can be first up to bat. Okay, and then.
Sorry, just a question maybe to the clerk. Is this something that I would have a conflict with? As I. No. No.
Through the chair, sorry, Councillor Grosso, the clerk does not give that kind of advice out. You have to get your own advice.
Right. Okay. For the record, I asked the question. Thank you.
All right. Councillor Nyman?
Maybe I can, what I plan on doing is putting a motion to defer to a future council meeting, the end of November, December, so that there can be more fulsome conversation with
Sorry, Brad, could you speak closer to the mic?
First time anyone said for Brad to speak louder.
To have a more fulsome conversation with the owners of the three cabs that we have with staff regarding the bylaw. So that's what that's what I wanted to say. So I don't know if you wanted that on the floor before we go into a whole big detail of it, but.
No, I think that is fair. We did do it with your motion on council. I think to do a deferral right off the bat is a fair conversation to do. Do you have a seconder? Councillor Pennell. Okay. Questions on the motion of deferral?
Just so I understand, this is to allow staff to have conversations with the taxi owners?
Yes, with I believe there's 3 taxi cabs presently operating in Prince Edward County, so it's just to have that conversation with staff and the owners, because I think there's been some changes to the bylaw, and I think we just need have input, have those conversations.
Okay, I don't know how, got a question of staff.
If it is not of the question of are you willing to defer or not defer?
I can pull that deferral off, or we'll leave it on there. We'll leave the motion on the floor.
Yes, Councillor St. Jean?
I'm not necessarily opposed to a deferral, but I do have a question because in the report it specifically states that there was staff also met directly with local licensed taxi operators and representatives from URIDE. I'm not understanding why we need a deferral to have more conversation if it's already occurred.
Yeah, that's the point I was going to raise.
Okay.
So that's speaking directly to the need for a deferral.
No, that is. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Director, microphones. Thank you. Director?
Thank you for the question through you, Madam Chair. You're correct. We did, staff did meet with, so first there was a Have Your Say survey which solicited feedback from the public. And then there was a survey tailored specifically to both taxi and limo operators. And we received feedback on that survey. Those results are included as attachments to the report. And then Mr. Kelly, the Supervisor of Bylaw Enforcement, met directly with the licensed taxi operators in the county about, and there was excellent feedback from that. In particular, those operators were looking to the Belleville model. Belleville recently updated its vehicle for hire bylaw, and so given that feedback from those operators, the changes that are being proposed and that you're seeing today, it's modeled very much on the Belleville bylaw. There are, of course, differences in relation to, like, in particular, the metering, but so those operators saw knew what the Belleville bylaw was, and so I think they'd be familiar with some of those changes. And then Mr. Kelly also met with the former owner of URIDE before there was a change in ownership there. So that's what has been done in terms of consultation.
On that note, I think that's sufficient information. Thank you for providing that. Councillor Princeton?
Yes, on the deferral, Madam Chair, I would like to just ask Councillor Nyman if he's had consultation with taxi drivers that feels not enough conversation has taken place.
Thank you.
So the justification of the deferral.
So, yes, I had a conversation this morning, and based on that conversation, that's why I'm asking for the deferral.
Okay. Councillor Pennell, I saw your hand. Was it based on yes or no for the deferral?
I like the idea of deferral, but the other question I wanted to ask,
Is it
if I'm allowed.
No, if it's not on the deferral, we're not asking the question, but thank you.
Fine.
I appreciate that. But we're going to vote on the deferring this motion. Yes, Councillor.
I think I mentioned when I was talking, it was late November or December, I think is when I asked it, but I don't know, maybe staff can say when they could fit it in, I don't know. But it's got to be sooner than later, I guess.
Okay, so ICAO?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, we can slot it into a committee of the whole meeting. We do have a fairly fulsome set of agenda items to come forward between now and the end of the year. But again, I think we need to get this right, and if there is a sentiment coming from some operators that we perhaps didn't, or we need to look at some parts of this, and I think we owe our businesses that respect.
Okay, on the deferral, Councillor Maynard?
Yeah, just for clarification to Councillor Nyman. So the deferral specifically is to?
So that to have a conversation with the operators, yes, of them, and same report will come back to whenever staff decide, but sooner than later.
Thank you.
Okay. Yep, I think we understand now. I'm going to call the vote. All in favor on the deferral. That carries. Excellent. Thank you, Director, for your time. And thus the goodbye to corporate team. And moving on to operations. Welcome. It's so great to have you guys. Report of the Operational Service Department dated October 23rd, 2025 regarding the Wellington Rotary Beach Improvement and Management Plan. Can I have a mover and seconder to put this on the floor? Councillor Engelsdorfer, Councillor Prinzen.
Thank you. It's an Engelsdorfer Prinzen motion that report OPS 15-2025 regarding the Wellington Rotary Beach Improvement and Management Plan be received. The staff be directed to implement the preferred beach improvement and management plan as outlined in Attachment 1, Section 7 to this report, where possible with current resources, and to seek funding sources and grants to support implementation of unfunded aspects of the plan. That staff continue to retain a contractor to dredge the Wellington Channel every 3 years, and that staff continue to explore technological advancements and opportunities to purchase a dredge in the future and report back to council with details as viable options are identified.
Thank you, Councillor. Albert, great to have you. Would you like a preamble or going straight into questions?
Through you, Madam Chair, I'd like a little preamble, if that's okay.
You go for it.
Excellent, thank you. As much as I like questions. So this, I just want to paint a picture for council. This is a culmination of the direction from council previously to explore management options for the beach. And I will just say thank you to Jane Graham and the folks at Shore Plan for their hard work on this. They put together the study that looked at all the past studies and sort of prepared the plan. It consolidates, as I said, it consolidates all the past reports and the studies. It incorporates consultations, extensive consultations that have been done with residents of the county, specifically, Wellington in particular, as well as, in-person consultations that Councillor Engelsdorfer and I had undertaken at one point as well to alert folks to this plan. It represents what we think is a cost-conscious, minimalistic approach to managing that property, and focuses on addressing fundamental issues that the property experiences, particularly sedimentation, flooding, poor drainage, deterioration of the road, and also parking and folks driving on the beach. Those are all problems that we know are issues down there, and the plan really focused on those issues. It presents a preferred approach, again, as was said, would only be implemented if funds were available, and we would continue to seek grants from any source possible to make this happen, or do what we can under existing budgets and forces. There are funds we have applied to sort of try and get this ball rolling, the Active Transportation Fund being one, and that would tie in a project where the sidewalk and a boardwalk would be extended and transferred all the way up to Wellington Main Street. That's my preamble.
Fantastic. Then let's open the floor to questions. We already have two lined up. Councillor Maynard.
Okay, so I guess in item 2 of the recommended motion, So we'll use current resources and seek funding to support any of the unfunded aspects of the plan. So that means we'll kind of, is that the intent then to phase it as funding sources become available?
Through you, Madam Chair, to Councillor Maynard, that's correct. It is a large amount of money, for sure, and to bring it all at once is probably not palatable. The idea is to look for funds, let's say through the FCM grants or various other sources, climate-related funds, and try and implement through those measures.
Okay, just as a follow-up to that, I understand I do understand some of the rationale for paving the road through the beach. It's going to be a pretty tough sell at $500,000 of 1% when the roads we drive on every day are some of them are in worse condition than that beach road. So whether that's one that gets put off to a little bit later date. And I would ask as well, and I was going to do it this morning until I heard the announcement on the radio about the Quinte West. Was Quinte West at one point was when they dredged the Wellington Channel, which I think we make some contribution. They were actually selling the sand to offset the cost. So if somebody could just explore that to see what they're doing. And I also, the one thing is, I mean, we have a boat launch that we're leasing that's in a good location, and I've always noticed in that park that having boats launch out of the beach site is pretty disruptive to the flow of that park. Those are my concerns. But if we're going to do this just in incremental pieces, obviously it needs to be dredged. I would say would be the number one, and then drainage.
Through you, Madam Chair, to Councillor Maynard, we would be coming back with each piece of this. We would be coming back and we would be asking for funding if needed, but also just laying out the approach. Some of it we can do in-house, some of it is internal, drainage things, a few other small things we can do. But a lot of this is large-scale items, so there would be another opportunity to comment on those things when we return.
Right, so dredging would be I'm assuming the first priority.
Dredging is, and that's already funded, so we would be proceeding with that next year.
Thank you.
Great. Councillor Nyman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Probably just a typo, but page 216 and 217, it references Picton Main Street, which I don't think you're in Picton. Just wanted to get that cleaned up. So also on 217, it mentions about kayak storage, and I guess I'm a little concerned is, if I have a kayak, I've paid for it and I'm taking it there, I'm storing it there, now the liability comes onto the county. So, and that's more of a maintenance thing with the building and stuff. So myself, I wouldn't support that part of the report, because I don't believe that municipality should be in the business of renting or storing people's private equipment or property, I guess. And then the other part on page 218 is the dune, the sand dune that's going to, and I could be wrong, but go along the beach where people park their cars now, because it's going to prevent vehicles from going on the beach. I've never ever seen a vehicle on the beach. So I guess, I just... I'll show you all the photos. Is there? Okay. So I guess... It's every day. Is it? Yeah. So I guess part of the attraction to going there is being able to drive down and look at the water. But you put something there that is going to obstruct that view, I don't think it's, to me, I can't support that either, because I think we're taking away part of the reason people drive down there or even walk down there along the street. It's to see that. So I guess there are a couple of points that and to move all that sand there, I don't think that's a good use of resources.
Okay, moving on, Councillor Hirsch.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And thank you, Albert, and the whole team, actually. This has been a long-term effort, and I think a very good example of getting real public opinion and input as to what should happen. And of course, many options were looked at, all of them more expensive than this one even. There were some pretty fancy proposals that were put forward, and it's been kind of narrowed down to this. So I think everyone should be congratulated for the good work that goes into this, and I support the whole plan, which is one of the motions. But in the second motion, the second paragraph, and Albert, you mentioned this, there is the need for some grant funding, and indeed there is FCM grant money available, specifically in terms of climate change adaptation. And what this kind of, and FCM has hundreds of millions of dollars available for these kinds of projects. And one of the aspects, and I'll ask you to speak to this, one of the aspects of this work is that the Wellington Beach and the road and everything were devastated in the 2017 and 2019 flood years with the windstorms that accompanied the flooding. And there was an awful lot of remedial work necessary. And part of this plan, as I understand it, would be to help prevent that from happening, and the dune and berm construction would be part of that. The reason I'm interested in the FCM funding is that FCM funding would cover 70% of a project. That's a pretty significant number. That leaves us to find the other 30%, and there are a number of sources, and I know that you're looking internally. But FCM won't accept an application if you can't say that, if the municipality can't say that it has the 30% available, which would mean if we wanted to do something next year of a significant nature, we need to have something in the budget. So I'm going to propose a motion in a few minutes along those lines when we get to motions, Madam Chair. But Albert, could you explain, I'm looking at page 218 where the sort of the line items are there. What of those items would you think would qualify for a climate adaptation project?
Through you, Madam Chair, to the councillor. I think the most prevalent items there are going to be related to the regrading and reworking of the road. I think with 2017 and 2019, the floods there, we had water over top of those roads. Right now, currently, the roads are recessed to a certain extent where the water sits on them, and with vehicles moving in and out of there, it just destroys the surface of it. Part of this plan is to look at putting in proper drainage so that in the future, we're raising it up, but also proper drainage. So in the future, if there are storms that overtop the road, the water doesn't sit there and work away at the road. So I would think, reworking the grading, looking at the drainage issues, bioswale, things like that. Those are items that could be directly related to climate.
So if I just follow up, so we can be looking at hundreds of thousands of dollars of grant opportunity. Yeah. Okay, so as I said, when the time comes, Madam Chair, I'll have a motion.
Yep, I have you written down, but we're going to go through first round. Councillor Brainy.
Thank you, Chair Branderhorst. Albert, I completely support it. I can't say enough. I've always had a great deal of confidence with anything you brought forward and your department's brought forward. With my thoughts with this location and frequenting myself, it almost ties into our economic viability concepts that I'm a firm believer that first impressions matter. I see the amount of traffic that goes into this location on the beach in the summertime. You certainly want people to go away from the county with an experience, and these are things that matter, and we really have to pay attention to it. I've also been really impressed with Councillor Engelsdorfer's advocacy over the last few years to see the relationship with Rotary, with accessibility. There's a lot of exciting things going on at this beach, and I certainly I want to see that continue, because I do believe that it not only the community needs it, but I think people that are coming from outside and experiencing the county from what we have to offer, I think it's a point of impact, and I think we should definitely support what you're proposing today.
Great. Thank you, Councillor Brainy. Councillor Pennell?
Any work that we do down at the Rotary Beach, I think is a boom for the county as a whole. And as far as the road and that, I quite often go down in there, check out the views, open the water, and anyway, the road is pretty bad, but we get a lot of people, not only from the county, but outside of the county as well, that are using that. And if we don't keep up on something that is a treasure to this county, it gets lost. The only concern I might have when it comes to the dredging, I would never hope we'd ever look at buying equipment and doing it ourselves, because we, I believe, are not set up for it. But having said that, is there a chance that that sand that comes off the beach, could it be stockpiled and used for roads? I don't know. But I'd like all those things checked out as well, because I'm thoroughly convinced that everybody that's dredged the sand out of there has had no problem selling it. So if we're getting a dredge, perhaps the county could make arrangements for and sell money in the coffers, just for what it's worth.
Through you, Madam Chair, to Councillor Pennell. Certainly it could be explored. I think there's value in using that sand to top the beach up and keep it in the state that you're saying, a gem, and something that, you know, a location people come to. It's like that because of the sand that's being deposited there from dredging. There's also ecological benefit for using that sand on the other side of the channel, where the greatest amount of erosion is occurring based on this report. So we have had very, very, very preliminary talks with the sandbanks, and there'd be more discussions needed, of course. But I think there is value to have some of that sand put there. If there's extra, or maybe down the road, if we don't keep needing it in those applications, perhaps that could work.
Thank you, Councillor Engelsdorfer.
Thank you. First, I just want to thank Albert and Ashley for a really good consultation process. There was multiple open houses. We knocked on doors. We attended a Rotary meeting. So it's probably the first time that I felt really confident that we've received proper feedback on something. And just to touch on Councillor Nyman's comments, there's still going to be an area to park and look out over the lake. It would be at the far west end. It's just there's going to be a block wall there, so you can't drive down onto the beach, is my understanding. And then just the concerns over funding. We've been very clear all along with residents, because they've been asking, when is this going to happen? And we've kind of said, we don't know, because it's all going to rely on when we can find funding. But I know the Rotary Club's taken a very keen interest on hopping on board with some of these projects, and I think we all know what that group can do when they get behind something. So I don't know, I find it really exciting. So I'll just leave it at that.
Through you, Madam Chair, to Council, I will just add that the reason why we're talking about the road first as a viable option and potentially something that a grant could fund is because everything else is dependent upon that. The elevation's changing for that road, and when that elevation changes, you can't really impact anything else until you set your elevation. If you do anything else, it's going to get in the way when you come time to do that road later. That's the reason why the emphasis would be put on that piece first.
Councillor Princeton.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just got stuck on the other options considered billet. We don't talk about very often on the reports. It's a great report, and I support it. But have we threatened to the province that we're going to give it back to them, and maybe they'll help us out with some of the stuff? Like, I'm just, it says that our use, it may drop, but if the province is looking after it, it may go up because they seem to have a little bit more money sometimes than we do. So I'm just curious as to, you put it in there for a reason. I read it, so I would just want you to kind of expand how you see that going. Not that I want to sell it to anything right now, but I want to know what you put it there for a reason. So if you could expand a bit, that'd be great. Sure.
Through you, Madam Chair, to Councillor Pennell. Sorry, Councillor Prinzen. My apologies. So that is in there because it is an option. It is something that I think when you look at these situations, you have to explore all options. You have to look at every single aspect and see what's viable. The option of giving it back, from an economic perspective, from a dollars and cents, it's the $0 option. However, speaking further to what Roy was saying, that is a little bit of a centerpiece for the county. And if you give it back, then there is no control or ability to sort of keep it as such. It could just be turned into a natural park. We can't purport to know what the ministry would do, and so it is a bit of a nebulous option if you were to go that way. It's hard to know what would happen. We have not had those conversations with them. We have not said, what's it going to look like if we were to give this back? We haven't explored those, but we have looked at other options where, perhaps we change the agreement that we have so it's a bit more easier to manage, but they don't really apply to what we're talking about today.
Okay, it's just a follow-up. You talk about being the centerpiece. Well, there's another big beach that the province owns that's also a centerpiece. So I'm just, like you say, the cheapest thing to do is say, here's your beach back and all the best. Is it the right thing to do? I'm not saying that at all. So is it something to have that conversation with the province, or are we just kind of wasting time, I guess is my question.
Through you, Madam Chair, to Councillor Prinzen, we could have that conversation. If council wanted us to, we certainly could. I don't know how it would go. I'm not certain it would be fruitful in any way, but we certainly could try. If that's council's will, of course.
So, yeah, I don't know if I should throw a motion out, or I'm sure you talk to people at the province periodically anyways, and whether it can just be a conversation piece. I'm okay with it because I've heard all the comments around the horseshoe already about this, so I am okay with this. So I just was trying to get the other side of the coin. Thanks.
Perfect, thank you. We can see where it goes if you want to put a potential motion on later. Councillor Harrison.
Yes, I have two questions, with your permission. One, is that provincial or federal? Because small craft harbors, were they not federal?
The land that, through you, Madam Chair, to the councillor, the land that we work on with the beach, where the beach is situated, is provincial.
It is, okay.
Yeah, and that's the agreement that we have for the Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry.
Yeah. But the harbor itself and the outlet, is that federal or provincial?
The harbor itself, that's a good question. I think in that case, we actually own a piece of the water lot there, which is a strange situation. It's not what you would call normal. However, the harbor itself is a port of entry, and it is governed by CBSA. So we do have some requirements there, and that's a whole other conversation we could have, sort of outside of the beach part, because there are things to talk about on that front. But I believe we own the water lot, so that would be us, and the operation would be regulated federally if my understanding is correct.
Right. Yeah. Thank you. And the other question was, over here we're talking about annual dredging at 72,000, and over here we're talking about 3 years. What's that mean? Every 3 years and then you're averaging it, or is that a typo, or what?
Through you, Madam Chair, to Councillor Harrison. So the 72,000 is just an annual cost. We wouldn't actually be dredging every year. We would dredge every 3 years. I don't think it's feasible to do it every year. The cost to mob equipment, it wouldn't make a lot of sense. We're proposing to stick with the 3-year program, and that's just sort of an average cost for the 3 years per year. And, yes, thank you, CAO. We do set that money aside each year so that we can do it every third year.
Oh, okay.
We already have in the budget funds as a transfer to reserves for that purpose, and then in the third year, we pull those funds and pay for the dredging.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Maynard.
Thank you. Yeah, in general, I'm supportive. I'm just wondering, so if we aren't successful in securing funding as we anticipate, or at a much lower level, has there been any consideration to a nominal parking fee? Like at Coburg Beach, it really ranges, right? Like if you live right there, it's like, I don't know, $20 a year and $40 if you live in Coburg, and then visitors pay a higher fee, because if we don't receive funding, was that discussed at all, that there be any, I mean, it's going to be a, this is, it's a pretty nice spot, beach on Lake Ontario. Similar to a boat launch fee, I guess.
Through you, Madam Chair, to Councillor Maynard. No, that wasn't really considered as part of this. The plan really here was to look at what needed to be done and how we would move forward. I think it was always the plan to come back with each piece and to talk to council about where the funding's coming from, where the money's coming from, how we're going to do those individual pieces specifically. And I think that discussion is a little bit of a later discussion around tourism and perhaps had in other aspects.
Okay, so that just means that we'll proceed with this plan and then implement it as we can.
Yes.
Okay.
Until we can.
Thank you. And I'm going to ask my question now. Specifically with the dredging, if we bought a dredger, would that mean that a new staff member would have to be specifically trained for that, to be able to operate that piece of equipment? And on top of that, would that operator now be in technically a new band class? So specifically, what are not only the cost of the dredger, but then the cost of the operator, the cost of, and would we need a specialty operator, or would that be our staff member? So, and what is the cost of the training on top of that, and the exponential growth of that? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, when we're talking about, this is not just adding a grader, this is adding a specialty piece of equipment. And
through you, Madam Chair, to you. Those costs are included in the evaluation of annual, like costs over time. So the cost of hiring an individual, to answer your question, yes, you would need someone to operate this. I would obviously want to explore it further with our existing staff to see if there are individuals. We'd have to talk to the union. There'd be conversations to be had for that. However, that's not really what's being recommended here. What we're recommending is the dredging every 3 years because of cost. If council wanted to improve service levels and look at a dredger so we could apply it to other locations around the county, which is certainly an option, and that we're willing to spend the money to do that, that would be the time to look at the costs of an additional staff member and training and all those things.
Follow up to that. Currently, the main other one that gets dredged, from my understanding, or one of the main ones, is East Lake, which is done by Sandbanks. So my personal thing is, why train somebody for Sandbanks to then push onto us and be like, oh, look, you have the training in the dredger? That seems like an issue, not an ishme. So that would be my personal fear, is then all of a sudden you're starting conversations where other people feel like we can handle the workload, and I'm scared on how much do we keep increasing of the municipalities' ability to work where maybe we don't need to take on that burden. And final words to Councillor Maynard.
Yeah, and it's really just on that particular topic. I mean, I think Quinte West has looked at this pretty extensively, and they have now for years used a contracted service. Although I'm not sure if they do still, but they did offset some of that by selling the sand. But I'm not sure. I think maybe that has stopped, but I'm not 100% sure. But they contract their dredging.
Through you, Madam Chair, to council, there are some municipalities that own their own equipment. I believe Coburg owns their own dredger, and I believe they've actually dredged our channel before in the past. So there is a model for that. However, they do have you know, a fairly large marina to look after down there, and they probably purchased their dredger a long time ago. So they don't have the considerations of CPI and all that, which we're looking at, which are significant. Even over the time of doing the study, they've gone up, and not to mention exchange rates and things. So that's why the recommendation we've made has been to stick with the contractor. You know, they could potentially use long stick as opposed to a suction dredge. There's all these other options that could occur. So we may want to look at it again in the event prices go up. And that's the reason why we want to keep that on the docket, just so staff will always be looking out for technology. Maybe a new rig comes out that's more efficient, maybe it's cheaper, maybe easier to operate. There's technological advances all the time. We wouldn't want to miss out on that. So we'll just keep our eyes on it and come back if needed.
Got you. So let's move on to the motions section. We've had enough comments. Councillor Hirsch.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I'll just make two quick comments first. Fully agree with Councillor Brady and others who pointed out that, you know, Wellington Rotary Beach is a big feature, especially for visitors to the county. Sometimes it's the first thing, maybe the only thing they see when Sandbanks is too full. So it's imperative, I think, to get going on this as quickly as we can. And speaking of quickly, to Councillor Prinzen's point, if we were to say to the province, okay, over to you, they would commission studies and do planning, and maybe 15 years from next Friday, we'd have something happening. In the meantime, it would just languish in its current state. So I don't really see that as a good thought, but not a good option, because I think there is a need to do this quickly. So in respect of the granting for this, and I have discussed this with the staff, my motion would be as follows: that the foregoing motion be amended to add an additional clause 5 as follows: that council directs staff to present to the 2026 budget a reserve for climate adaptation and mitigation projects, and that these funds cover the required contribution to participate in an FCM climate adaptation grant application for the Wellington Beach Improvement Plan and or other climate adaptation projects. So as I mentioned before, FCM would pay 70% of a project. We can find other ways to come up with the 30%, but if we don't have that line in the budget, and obviously we get to decide this at budget time. You can all decide you don't want to do this in December. But if we go with this motion and staff comes up with that allocation, which of course only happens if the grant is successful. If the application is not successful, then that money doesn't get spent. But that should enable us to do some of the major items, as Albert mentioned, the big startup items that have to be done before the others, quickly, you know, possibly as soon as next year. So that's the motion to help us use the FCM grants, and hopefully that's supported.
And I see you have a seconder in Councillor Grosso. Excellent. I think that's pretty almost clear cut. Councillor Nyman.
Yeah, so I just want to make sure. So you're asking for it to be for this project or any other project. That's where I'm having the problem. I just want to make sure. I guess, are we asking for this project or are we asking for any project? So I just need to know.
Good eyes, Councillor Nyman, as usual. I was specifically interested in this project. There will be other climate adaptation projects that we can do. One of our problems from a timing perspective is that the climate action plan, which you've all been expecting with bated breath, is likely not going to come to us until probably Q2 of next year. There will be a list of projects attached to that plan for council to approve. Some of those could be advanced now to take advantage of the FCM money rather than wait a whole other year for that to happen. So those words are in there just in case we come up with something really useful between now and budget time.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Okay. I think we're ready. So let's call the vote on Councillor Hirsch and Councillor Grosso's motion. All in favor? Yeah, that carries. Okay, thank you. And now the main motion as amended. All in favor? Yeah, that carries too. Okay, fantastic. Thank you, Albert. And,
Madam Chair, could we have a motion to extend the time, please?
oh, man. Yeah, motion to extend the time. Councillor Princeton, Councillor St. Jean, all in favor? Yeah, that carries. Thank you, and thank you, Clerk, for keeping us on point. Oh, man. What a gem. Okay, Albert, I'm sorry, you're out of the hot seat. And we get Acting Director. Great to have you here with us. Would you like any preamble? Or, nope, never mind. Nope, pause. So this is moving on to 6.5, report of the H.J. McFarland Memorial Home dated October 23rd, 2025, regarding a request for additional personal support worker PSW's positions. Can I have a mover and second to put this on the floor? Councillor Princeton, Councillor St. Jean.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Princeton St. Jean, motion that report HJM-02-2025 regarding the request for additional personal support worker PSW positions be received, and that 2, that staff be directed to proceed with the addition of 10 additional part-time personal support worker positions to the staff complement to ensure regulatory compliance with the Ministry of Long-Term Care Standards.
Great, thank you for that. ICAO, hand just shooting up and ready to talk.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just before Acting Director Mills may introduce this, I just wanted to frame this conversation. I mean, typically we would wait until budget before we had conversations about adding complement to our staffing. Now, in this case, as all service areas are looking across their budgets for a potential cost savings as we prepare the 2026 budget. We identified that this is a potential cost savings immediately, and we didn't want to wait until the budget's ratified in January or ish of 2026 to get these positions going. We need these now to reduce our reliance on the agencies and to mitigate some of the significant overtime that the current staff have been accruing. So this is to get this going now, so we can start saving some money now.
We like the sound of that.
It's a winner.
Any additions or? Microphone.
Through the chair to council. No, the only other thing that I would like to bring forward is the stable, consistent team of PSWs and how it improves the resident outcomes. The residents benefit from the familiar caregivers who understand their individual needs and preferences.
Thank you for that. I'm going to go to Councillor Nyman and then Councillor St. Jean.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I know we've struggled with having filling the positions that we have, and that's why we have temp agencies in. So I'm just wondering, I guess I'm not quite following, because if we already have those positions and those temp agencies are filling them, why do we need the 10 additional ones? Can we not just hire the PSWs and then reduce the temp work agencies?
Thank you, Madam Chair, through you. No, we don't have the staff complement. We need to increase the complement and to reduce the reliance on agencies. So we need the bodies ourselves. We need to hire them ourselves.
No, and I understand that, but do we not have the temp agencies in there to fill the vacancies that we don't have already?
Can you find the people who always ask?
Yep, through the chair to Councillor Nyman. Yes, we do currently have the positions full, and we do have PSWs applying.
Great, thank you for that addition. Councillor St. Jean.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Dion and Mr. CAO. $116,000 saving. This is just a no-brainer. It really, truly is. We're forced to provide the extra services, and then this is a solution that actually saves money immediately. So thank you for bringing it forward, and I'll be supporting it.
Thank you for that, Councillor Pennell.
as we move ahead and get the new home built, this will give us a good opportunity to maybe take a look at people, how they might fill in the future, because it may be critical on being able to get people when we need them. So I'm in favor of it.
Wise words. And a good place to stop. Okay, let's take a vote. All in favor? That carries unanimously because we all want to save some money. Okay, thank you so much for bringing this forward in a timely way. It's greatly appreciated. And on that note, we have no closed session. So, Councillor Engelsdorfer, Councillor Prinzen.
It's an Engelsdorfer Prinzen motion that this meeting now adjourn at 4:05 p.m.
All in favor? That carries. Great work, Councillor Engelsdorfer, on that presentation. See you all in Ameliasburg tonight.